Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, do we have a deal with Iran? And is the Battler line on Sound Transit actually going to Ballard? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Today, a press release goes out from Seattle Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson and Seattle moronic council member Deborah Juarez, one of the most useless people to ever serve in city government. Now, what is it in response to? Let me just catch you up for those of you that may not know this story. Over the weekend, there was this massive gang battle in North Seattle off of Aurora. For those of you who have lived here a long time, you go, it's Aurora Avenue. What do you expect? It has gotten infinitely worse. 40 shell casings minimum were found in this area. You have drug dealers, you have pimps, you have everybody zipping up and down residential streets shooting at each other. One bullet almost hit a baby sleeping in their crib. That's how bad it is. So what happens? The residents, and we had David Patton on, one of the residents, the other day. You can actually go see the interview with him over at all my social media channels, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on X, The Ari Hoffman Show over on YouTube. It's everywhere at KVI.com. We got a whole write-up on the situation. We've been covering this all week, where he said he served in 2 Gulf Wars, 2 wars in Iraq, and he never heard this much gunfire as he hears in North Seattle. That's how bad it is between the pimps and the gang members and you name it, the drug dealers. It's really, really bad. So the neighbors said, we're going to put up barricades to protect our streets. That's what we're going to do. And they got those big metal things you kind of see at Home Depot, even though it looks like they assembled part of them themselves, filled them with sand, blocked the street. Now, you may go, that's illegal, Ari. Well, number one, the city designated this street as one of those streets they were going to close off to traffic anyway, which they've been doing since COVID all over the place, so the kids have a place to play safely. So it's something the city was supposed to do and didn't do. The city freaks out. How dare you close a street? And then representatives from the mayor's office, representatives from Juarez's office eventually show up north when every single media outlet in the country covers this story because it went so viral crazy. And they say, okay, today they release a press release with their plan. Are they going to address the gang violence? No. Are they going to address the prostitution? No. Are they going to address the drug dealers? Nope. You want their big solution? Here we go. I'm going to read you directly from the press release itself. Today, Councilmember Deborah Juarez, District 5, and Mayor Katie Wilson, Katie B. Wilson, B as in giant forehead, announced the city actions being taken to address ongoing violence along Aurora Avenue North. All right, let's do it. What are we going to do to address the ongoing violence? The ongoing work includes close partnerships with City Attorney Erica Evans' office, Seattle Police Department leadership, the Community Assisted Response and Engagement Department, and community organizations. Okay. Does that mean more patrols? Does that mean you're going to put prolific offenders behind bars? Does that mean you're going to call in ICE? Does that mean you're going to call in other federal agencies maybe to deal with this? Does it mean you're going to stop making legalized prostitution? Any of these things? No, we're going to have partnerships. Oh, well, what does that mean? Don't you already partner with these agencies? Don't they already work for you? All right, here we go. Councilmember Juarez has a quote. All right, bring it on, Debbie. Our neighbors should be safe in their homes and on the streets of their communities. It is imperative that we do our job as elected officials to make that happen. Okay. Why didn't you do your job till now? Why didn't you do your job until now? And I still don't hear what you're actually doing. All right, here we go. Wait, there's more. Councilmember Juarez is currently working closely with Councilmember Bob Kettle of District 7, the chair of Public Safety, on emergency legislation that will allow the Seattle Police Department and the Seattle Department of Transportation the ability to close public streets for public safety reasons. The draft legislation would allow the closures in order to prevent criminal activity occurring in or emanating from that street or alley. So you're going to work with the Seattle Police Department not to enforce crime, not to stop crime, not to arrest people. You're going to work with the city attorney maybe to prosecute people? No, we're not going to do that. To be able to close streets. You know, one of these closed streets is right near the Starbucks I go to. I drive through it every day. And people have actually shoved the barricades out of the way because everybody goes to the Starbucks the same way I go to the Starbucks. In fact, to get to the Starbucks, we all go the wrong way down a one-way street that the city made these days, too, because nobody drives down that street anyway. So I don't think your little barricades are going to help. I don't think your little signs are going to stop the gang members. I think the gang members will just use them for cover, right? That's probably what's going to happen. But now we can close the street. So you're working with the Seattle Police Department to close it. What do you need them for? Just drop a couple of concrete barricades. Those suckers ain't going anywhere. They've done it all over Georgetown. You drive through Georgetown, there's concrete barriers as far as the eye can see. They're everywhere because everybody wants to keep the homeless RVs that spontaneously combust away from their businesses. In fact, I saw the craziest thing the other day, Kevin. I'm driving through Georgetown. You know what I saw? I see the concrete barriers like the kind you see on the freeways. And then somebody has dropped, honest to God, boulders on the street. I don't mean like concrete barriers, actual boulders in the middle of the street. Oh, they just appeared here. I mean, it's like
an act of God.
Yeah, God, just fire and brimstone coming down from the sky right there.
He said if SPD isn't going to block this stuff, enough of the nonsense, and he just pulled a boulder.
That's what it is.
And dropped it right there.
It's like it's a Luke Skywalker-sized boulder. Actually, some of these are bigger. They're like the thing they chain the guy to in Idiocracy before the big fight. These giant boulders just there in the middle of the street.
And I should clarify that. If the SPD isn't allowed to do this.
There you go.
Let me clarify.
There you go. And you show up and I bet you if I knocked on the door of that business and I said, hey guys, whose boulders are out there? I've never seen those before in my life. I don't know where those came. A rock monster with a rock lobster. Rock monster, rock lobster just fell apart right there in front of my business. I don't know what to tell you.
Maybe we got a new vigilante that's doing like quiet vigilante work here.
Oh.
Huh?
Do we call him The Rock or that's copyrighted? Can we not call him that?
Yeah.
Oh, we got to call him something. Rocky. Wait, that's copyrighted too. Bouldering, Boulder Dash. I don't know. Come up with something like that.
He strikes again. I woke up and he's got a boulder right where an RV was.
I got it. The Rolling Stones.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because that's not copyrighted,
No.
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll just call him that. Yeah, I've never seen that before in my life. I don't know where those things came from. So, hang on. Katie Wilson. Hang on. Wait. I need something special for this. To read Katie Wilson's thoughts, to read what she said, I think we need to do this a little differently. I think we need to do this old school. And now, deep thoughts with Mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson. Gun violence along the Aurora corridor is alarming and unacceptable, and we share neighbors' desire for an immediate action to address safety concerns. Wow, I'm blown away. So you gonna send in the cops, maybe a SWAT team, maybe gang units, maybe you gonna do any of? No. We're just gonna put the planters. You know, by the way, these things may not even be concrete barriers. They may put in those flower pots, those big flower pots that they love putting everywhere in the city to protect the bike lanes, those big black plastic things with dirt in them, but you have to provide your own plants. I will never forget this. They had a community meeting because they were doing this to a street near my house, and they said, because everybody was furious about the bike lanes and how they were redoing traffic patterns and taking away parking and all that. Well, we're going to give you a flower pot. We're going to give you a giant flower pot. And I raised my hand, and I said, there are going to be flowers in it? Well, no, you can plant whatever you want in it. And I go, I got a black thumb. I'm going to kill whatever's in that. And they go, no, like you can take care of it and you learn to garden. I go, so you're telling me you're going to put a flower pot in front of my house where there used to be parking and I got to take care of it, right? Yeah, they'll be, well, no. I mean, the city's putting it, it's free for you. Did I ask for a flower pot? There's a reason that there's concrete everywhere on my property because I kill anything that's green. Anything. It's not by choice. It's just because I suck at gardening, okay? Not all of us have that gift. Everything is covered with concrete and mulch. You know why? Because I suck at landscaping. We have certain gifts. That's not mine.
You barely have patience for doing a 3-hour radio show and sitting and watching a movie. Could you imagine watching something grow in your care?
Yeah, that don't work. My wife and I have the black thumb. I mean, the black thumb. If it is living, I'm amazed our children survived. We're really good at killing things. So anyway, Mayor Wilson has directed SDOT to replace the resident-installed barriers with temporary traffic calming treatments. Are we doing spa? Are we doing facials? Are we doing massages? Is there going to be some nice music and a little fake waterfall inside the masseuse's office? Calming treatments. Hey, gang member, you can't go there. There's SDOT calming treatments, right? You can't go there. Don't you go there. Don't you know there are calming treatments? We're going to put up a sign that says shh. Oh, my God. This work will be done in consultation with emergency responders, trash pickup, and other vital services to ensure access. It's expected to be in place within the next 24 to 48 hours. All right, guys, the calming treatments are going in. This is how they solve things in Seattle with the calming treatments. That's how they do it, my friends. Why don't you just get the cops involved? So let me make sure I got this straight. Seattle Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson's plan to combat gang violence and gang wars and pimp violence near Aurora Avenue is to install the calming treatments. I can't take that seriously. The calming treatments. What is a calming treatment? To install the barriers that were supposed to be installed years ago, but weren't because of people like Deborah Juarez. So the neighbors installed them, then the city freaked out that they installed them, but then they got backlash for freaking out. So now the city's installing them. Wouldn't it just be easier to enforce the law, right? It would just, we all agree on this, right? It would just be easier to enforce the law. How about you have patrols? How about you have police? Oh, right. You can't promise that. You can't promise that because the Third World Cup is coming up this month, and you need the police to keep the riffraff out of the hotel district. You need to keep away from the stadiums. By the way, some of you have been great about this. You guys have been sending me pictures from all over Seattle about where the riffraff got pushed. If I haven't posted them yet on social media, it's because I am saving them up for the actual World Cup. So I could say, Katie Wilson says, we're ready. Seattle's ready for the World Cup. Are we? And every day I could just put up another one. In fact, I've already decided that every day I'm going to try a new route to the studio that comes not through the highway, not through the freeway, but through other ways so I can figure out exactly where they have shoved all the homeless for the World Cup, because they didn't ship all of them out of town. There's a lot of them still left. I was driving up on Airport Way. One of our listeners texted me this one. He says, you got to get up to Airport Way near Holgate Street. This whole massive homeless encampment has sprung up right from the ground as if it grew, as if it was dropped there like the boulders just dropped right there. There's another, I mean, they're all over the place. They are all over the place. These neighborhoods that didn't used to have these problems because they've just been pushed out of that area. Just pushed out. Do you think Seattle is ready for the World Cup, my friends? Oh, yeah. Never mind the fact that Katie Wilson doesn't want to turn on the cameras that catch criminals. She doesn't want to do that, right? Don't turn on those cameras, those CCTVs, those special ones the police have been using to catch a whole bunch of criminals. You know, yesterday, the Seattle Police Department finally released pictures of the suspect who's wanted in connection with the massive hammer attack on that 35-year-old young man who was just walking down the street and somebody bashed him in the head a bunch of times, so much so that he's fighting for his life in the hospital. He's going to have issues the rest of his life. 10 days later, I think it's 10 days, maybe it's even longer than that, the Seattle Police Department finally releases pictures of these guys. Hey, where do you think they got those pictures from? Where do you think they got those pictures from? And if God forbid, there's a terrorist attack after all this, during the World Cup, something like that. Well, did you see the movie Patriots Day? Patriots Day with Mark Wahlberg is about the Boston Marathon bomber. And I heard that Rob Saka was talking about that. We played that clip yesterday where he ran the Boston Marathon in 2013, went past the finish line just a few minutes before that bomb went off. If you ever see the movie Patriots Day, they actually show you how they found these guys using all the different surveillance cameras, all the closed-circuit TV, cameras on ATMs and restaurants everywhere, and how they found these guys. And the interesting thing about the movie is they use the real footage that the police use, that the feds use to find the Boston Marathon bombers. If, God forbid, something happens here, all right, let's get into the investigation. All right, Kash Patel comes to town. Let's bring in Tom Homan. Let's bring in everybody. We'll bring in everybody. The AG. We'll bring in every federal law enforcement agency. All right, guys, pull up the cameras. And then Mayor Forehead. We turned them off because you're a bunch of racists, because you don't like immigrants. And yeah, there's trans people who are afraid of you. That's what's going to be. That's what's going to be, God forbid, God forbid. The most likely scenario during the third World Cup is going to be that the area surrounding the stadiums and the hotels is perfectly fine, but the rest of Seattle has problems, like North Seattle. I bet you if I spoke to David today again and asked him, hey, do you think this is an acceptable solution? I could pretty much guarantee what he's going to say. You know what you get after this when the city doesn't do its job? You get armed vigilantes doing their job. You get a Phoenix Jones doing his job. Our vigilante from 15 years ago? You get people doing the job for the police, and then you get more violence and you get more chaos. Is that what you guys want? You guys want armed citizens walking around? Because it's only a matter of time until the next story out of North Seattle is going to be residents patrolling the streets with AR-15s because the mayor refuses to act. Or better yet, fully armed residents patrolling North Seattle after socialist Mayor Katie Wilson tries to address gang violence with flower pots. Yeah, that's going to be my headline. That is going to be my headline. That is what's going to happen. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. That is what is going to happen. This one here from John in Auburn. Hey, Ari, talk about a black thumb. My wife has killed more than one cactus over the years. Yeah, the cactus is the go-to plants for people like me who suck at this. I think we still managed to kill a cactus. I think we managed to do this. This is how you do it. Tell me what, guys. Do you agree with me? You disagree with me? You think this is going to solve the problem up in North Seattle? Do you think the rest of Seattle has to worry, but the stadium area is going to be fine because we only have so many cops? We had that massive police exodus. We don't have enough officers. And we're heading into one of the biggest media events this town has ever seen. We're not ready for it. And flower pots aren't going to help solve the situation. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends, including we now are learning more about the suspect that the Seattle Police Department arrested who was planning on shooting up UW Tacoma. We'll have the insane details for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. I love the texts we're getting on the last segment. I love this. Okay, Karen from Phoenix says I should come down to Arizona because they have plenty of cactus. It's also 110 degrees in the summer. No, thank you. I love Phoenix. It's got more kosher restaurants. I love Arizona. It's beautiful. Less homeless people. Not no homeless people. Less homeless people, right? We go there once a year for Turning Point. We went last year. There were a fair amount of homeless people, but nothing like what you see around here. So, yeah, I don't want to fry eggs on the sidewalk, but I appreciate it, Karen. If you're happy, I got a lot of friends there every summer. They're talking about how hot they are. So it's great the rest of the year, but no, not for me. No, thank you. John in Lakewood says, I can see North Seattle residents arming up against growing unchecked violent lawlessness. Yes, exactly. Just like what I said. John added, Seattle's not ready for the World Cup. Como should have a remote 24-hour cameras in homeless areas and broadcast images over the air to large screens placed around Lumen Field. No, put it to the one they're installing at Pacific Place. That's not that there's going to be anybody there watching it. Okay, this one. Rob in Lakewood says, homeless camp? Come on, man. LA Mayor Karen Bass called them communities. Ah, yes, of course. Well, the big news yesterday, which promptly disappeared from the headlines, was that the Seattle Police Department stopped a potential mass shooting at the University of Washington in Tacoma. Now, this story just poof, vanished. And why did it vanish? Because they found out the motives of the shooter would be my guess. What does Aristotle say? A person needs three things in order to survive: air, water, and somebody to blame. Well, in this one, didn't fit a lot of people's narrative, so it quickly disappeared from the headlines. Well, last night, thankfully, the King County Prosecutor's Office keeps the same insane hours I do and sent this over to me, so I have the entire police report and file in front of me. Seattle police say they prevented a potential mass shooting targeting the University of Washington Tacoma campus after investigators detained a student who allegedly sent a photograph of a shotgun engraved with the phrase, Elliot Rodger was right, and was reportedly expected to be on campus during final exams. Now, I'll explain what that means in a second. According to the Seattle police, officers received a crisis complaint on May 26 after a UW Tacoma student allegedly sent a Discord message, that's a messaging platform for those of you who don't know what Discord is, containing a photograph of a shotgun and references that alarmed a former classmate. Investigators said the reporting party described the student as increasingly erratic, radicalized, and fixated on violent extremist beliefs. Court documents we got a hold of that were filed in support of an extreme risk protection order, otherwise known as an ERPO, revealed the shotgun pictured on the Discord message allegedly bore the inscription, Elliot Rodger was right. Investigators further wrote that the student appeared to be modeling his ideology off a mass murderer. Who was Elliot Rodger? He's the one who carried out the 2014 Isla Vista massacre near the campus of UC Santa Barbara, killing 6 people and injuring 14 before taking his own life. Rodger later became a symbolic figure within parts of the violent incel movement. If you don't know what that is, that's an extremist online subculture centered on resentment towards women and, well, basically the fact that they can't get anybody to have sex with them. It's pretty twisted. His manifesto and attacks have been cited repeatedly by researchers and law enforcement officials examining violent, misogynistic extremism. Now, police documents indicate the investigators became increasingly concerned because UW Tacoma officials reported that the student was expected to be on campus during finals week. Internal police notes cited in the court filings noted concerns that the suspect should be at UW Tacoma for finals and described him as allegedly modeling his ideology after that of Rodgers. According to the filing, officers were informed that the student had become increasingly erratic and radicalized and was exhibiting behavior consistent with someone embracing violent extremist ideology. Investigators noted concerns about his access to potential victims, given his enrollment at the school, proximity to schools, and public spaces. While investigating, officers learned the student had left his Seattle apartment carrying what appeared to be a shotgun case. Now, what's interesting is that his friends did the right thing. They reported him. The cops got a hold of the building manager where he lived And the building manager, according to the court documents, goes, okay, I just saw him on the cameras and he's leaving and he's got a case on his back and it looks like a gun case he's walking out of the building with. Patrol officers working alongside SPD's crisis response team located him and detained him after determining he posed an imminent danger to the public. The student was transported to a local hospital for evaluation, served with an extreme risk protection order prohibiting access to firearms. Yeah, that ought to do the trick, right? According to SPD, the student later told officers he had buried the shotgun in the woods near Robbinswood Community Park in Bellevue. Officers recovered the firearm, which police said had markings that appeared to have been scratched off after the original image surfaced. The ERPO filing states investigators believe the student presented an immediate threat because he allegedly had access to a firearm, access to transportation, and what officers described as an ideological motive tied to Elliot Rodger. The filing further states that officers believed he posed a significant danger in the near future and cited concerns about a potential attack occurring during the finals week at UW Tacoma. In a statement, Seattle police praised the coordinated response. Quote, this was an exceptional police work at the highest level, a great example of our officers, detectives, and crisis responders working together to solve a rapidly evolving crisis situation, thwarting a potential school shooting. SPD added that the student's behavior, the shotgun inscription, his active enrollment in Tacoma campus, and reports he'd been carrying a shotgun case left investigators with far too many red flags to ignore. Now, this is everything working right. Think if everything hadn't worked right, but also think about the coordination. We don't have enough officers here in Seattle. They had to go to Bellevue. They had to go to Tacoma. They had to go all over the place to deal with this case. That's a lot of man hours. That's a lot of work. And this is the department that Katie Wilson wanted to defund. This is the department that she wanted to abolish. These are the guys she doesn't want to have anymore. And if people like Katie Wilson, Shama Sawant, and the rest of them had their way, there would have been a mass shooting, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, at University of Washington, Tacoma. And what would have been the conversation we would be having on air right now if this had happened? Here would be the conversation. Well, he was on everybody's radar and he was reported and nobody did anything about it. How did he get access to firearms when he had these mental issues? Why weren't the police there? Oh, they defunded the police. They don't have enough officers. That's the conversation we would have been having today. If the left had its way here in Washington, there would have been a mass shooting at the University of Washington, Tacoma. God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. There's only so many times I can say it. But that's what it is, guys. That's what it is. Their policies lead towards death, lead towards dead kids. That's what those policies lead towards. Forget the ideology for a second here. Forget how dangerous that whole culture is. We'll get into that another time. But just the fact that they want to get rid of all the police officers. Oh, and by the way, think of if you actually use the police officers to enforce the law up in North Seattle, because when you let police officers do what they got to do, things are done right. I wonder if this kid had posted a picture of a machete. Would they have said, nah, it doesn't matter because it's a knife, not a gun. Now we're not going to deal with it. We're not going to deal with it. And then you hear about some students, God forbid, getting stabbed. Right? It's amazing. It's amazing that this all worked out for the best, that this kid is hopefully getting the help that he needs mentally, that the police were able to stop this, that his friends reported it, that the building manager cooperated, that everybody did the right thing. It's kind of good that the story disappeared from the headlines, but why did it disappear from the headlines? Because the leftist media couldn't find anybody on the right to blame for it, and they had to applaud the police for doing their jobs, doing it well, and doing what they should be doing. Mainstream media don't work like that. And that's why you didn't hear any of these details. That's why most news outlets probably didn't even request the court documentation. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Up next, do we have a deal with Iran or not? Reportedly, President Trump left the Situation Room a short time ago. So, do we have a deal? Yes, no? We going back to war? What's the story? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just a short time ago, President Trump came out of the Situation Room where he was discussing with the Joint Chiefs and everybody else whether we're going to be bombing Iran or whether we're going to have some kind of ceasefire deal extended with Iran. And President Trump apparently came out of there with no decision that he's telling the media about. So we don't actually know what's going on. Here's what we do know. We do know that Iran's economy is completely falling apart. Completely falling apart. And there's only so long you can go under those circumstances. We also know that what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, because it's a global oil market, is affecting gas prices here. And a lot of people, including Americans, are tired of paying higher prices at the pump. Last night, I was at a campaign event for a candidate who's running it for Washington legislature. And while we were there, a lot of people were coming up to me and going, Ari, they should just finish the job. They should just finish the job. Nobody said we should stop. They're just tired of waiting around. Just go and finish the job. Well, what does that look like? And I think that's the discussion that was going on because a lot of people didn't like this deal so much. President Trump outlined what it might be. He posted to Truth Social, and it sounds very much like the deal we were talking about yesterday. We're going to go in and get the nuclear dust, and we're going to make sure that they hopefully don't have a nuclear weapon, but there's negotiations about that. And Iran agrees to open the Hormuz Strait. Well, they agreed to open the Hormuz Strait in the last ceasefire, and they haven't really done it yet. They still have lunatics out there mining the thing, which we've had to blow up in the meantime. So the discussion is, can they be trusted or not? Can we actually make a deal with these guys or not? Is it a smart thing to make these deals or not? I do like that the entire cabinet's involved. So you hear from all your advisors, this is what's going to do the economy. This is what it's going to do national security. This is what it's going to do to our military forces. Do we have the ammo we need? Consider all that before making a decision. I like all that. But it seems like as of right now, no decision is being told to the media. I'm not saying a decision hasn't been made, but no decision is being told to the media. I like that he usually bombs Iran on Friday nights or Saturdays. I usually find out from the synagogue security guards the next day because I'm offline for Sabbath. So usually a security guard goes, oh, hey, you here? We bombed Iran last night, or this happened last night. It's hard to make a deal with people that want you dead. We're talking about a death cult that has been saying death to America for decades. And then we have this release from the Department of Justice. A dual Iranian-Iraqi national accused of working on behalf of some of the world's most notorious terrorist organizations has been indicted in the United States after federal authorities say he helped orchestrate a series of attacks across Europe and sought to facilitate violence on American soil. The Department of Justice announced Thursday that Mohammed Bakr Saad Dawood al-Saidi faces multiple terrorism-related charges stemming from his alleged role as an operative for Kataib Hezbollah and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, both designated foreign terrorist organizations by the United States. According to prosecutors, al-Saidi was deeply embedded within what he described as the Iranian-led resistance network, a coalition that allegedly includes the IRGC, Kataib Hezbollah, Lebanese Hezbollah, and the Iranian-backed Houthis. So, this guy likes all the terrorist organizations. This is who we're trying to negotiate with? They still want us dead. Investigators say he was participating in planning, directing, promoting, coordinating attacks targeting Western and Israeli interests while advancing a campaign of intimidation and psychological warfare. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said the indictment paints a picture of an individual allegedly involved in a global terrorist operations in efforts to target Americans. He was planning on attacking U.S. and Israeli interests across the world to commit attacks on American soil and in Europe. Federal prosecutors allege that al-Saidi played a role in approximately 18 attacks and attempted attacks throughout Europe. Authorities say those operations were carried out under the banner of Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Isla Yamina, which investigators contend was not an independent organization, but rather a front linked to Kataib Hezbollah and other Iranian-backed terrorist groups. So, we're negotiating with the guys backing these groups. Go in and finish the job, guys. The indictment further alleges that al-Saidi sought to expand those efforts into the United States. According to court filings, al-Saidi allegedly explored attacks against a synagogue in New York and in April of 2026 attempted to locate an individual inside the U.S. who would carry out violent acts on his behalf because he was too chicken to do it himself. He'd rather sit behind his computer or whatever it is, hiding out wherever he can, and getting some dumb brainwashed Islamist to go commit the acts for him. Prosecutors say he discussed potential attacks involving arson and murder before being detained overseas and then brought to the U.S. U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton warned that Iranian-backed terrorist groups continue to pursue longstanding objectives against the United States, including the IRGC. He added for over 40 years, Iranian-backed groups, including the IRGC, have been committed to bringing terror to our shores. Now, apparently, this guy had connections to senior figures within Iran's terrorist infrastructure, which means their government itself. Authorities say al-Saidi admitted to investigators that he maintained close ties with Qassam Soleimani. He died like a dog, died like a dog. The former commander of the IRGC's Quds Force, who was killed in a U.S. airstrike in 2020. According to prosecutors, al-Saidi claimed he traveled frequently with Soleimani, was expected to accompany him shortly before the strike that killed both Soleimani and Khatib Hezbollah leader Abu Mahdi al-Muqaddasis. Yeah, that's not Abu al-Barakari. Investigators also allege al-Saidi maintained relationships with other senior Iranian and proxy leaders and described himself as a key figure in media operations. Media operations. You mean propaganda. You mean social media. You mean the lies you tell the media. That's what we're talking about, right? And psychological warfare activities conducted by the broader resistance movement. Funding some of them protests, perhaps? Federal authorities say evidence recovered from al-Saidi's electronic devices includes communications with terrorist operatives, propaganda material, imagery celebrating IRGC and Hezbollah leaders, and media documenting attacks across Europe because he liked to brag about what he was doing. Among the allegations outlined by prosecutors, they claim that al-Saidi participated in real-time video communications with individuals carrying out attacks, helped produce propaganda footage, coordinated messaging efforts, and promoted violent incidents intended to generate fear among civilian populations. I was at the University of Washington for a lecture the other night. Great lecture, talking about how a lot of the stuff you're seeing on college campuses with the protests and stuff is literally coming out of terrorist organizations. It's their propaganda material. And there was this one guy, actually everybody was very cordial, very civil discourse, and this one guy goes, wait, you mean to tell me that stuff is actually coming from terrorist groups? There's a direct line between them? And the speaker's like, yes. And he goes, really? And she goes, yes. Because that's what they're seeing. That's exactly what they're seeing. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Guard in Eastern Oregon. Guard, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Love the show.
Thank you. What's up, man?
I know regime change is kind of a dirty word, but don't you think we got to get rid of the people who are screaming death to America? And they're never going to give it up.
No, they're not. I mean, I think about this for a second, to be fair. I think we got rid of 4 or 5 levels of the people who were screaming death to America. The question is, how many does it take until they stop screaming death to America, right? In Venezuela, you go and you get Maduro, you solve the problem, right?
But they still got the head of the IRGC.
Yep.
And
well, to be clear, he's the new head of the IRGC.
The IRGC aren't even
I think we killed like 3 other heads of the IRGC. This is just the newest one. Okay, so this is the sequel to the sequel to the sequel. This is like those Fast and Furious movies that have just gone on too long. There's too many heads of the IRGC. They just keep getting new ones. It should be dismantle the IRGC. I don't know why that's not part of these negotiations, right?
That should definitely be part of the negotiations. And just kind of a little side note on the whole thing is the Hamas prisoners that they had in Israel that they sent back to Gaza, and they all have guns now. Wouldn't it been better to send them to some other country? Well,
a lot of them didn't go back, but the ones that did go back to some of these places or made their way back to some of these places. One thing that's interesting is Israel doesn't have the death penalty. They used it in very, very rare circumstances for guys like Eichmann, the Nazi. But Israel doesn't have the death penalty. They recently passed the death penalty in Israel because they're tired of doing these deals, and they'd rather just get rid of the terrorists than leave them in jails, because then that's incentive for the terrorists to take Israeli, Jewish, American, whoever hostages to try and get them back. Guard, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, a senior was banned from graduation for saying boys shouldn't be allowed in girls' locker rooms. I kid you not. We'll give you all details of the Woke Report, plus your chance to win fantabulous prizes when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just before we get into the latest woke insanity, I almost forgot, my friends. We are running two contests this week, and today is your last chance to win these fantabulous prizes. So the first contest we are giving away a pair of tickets to an advanced screening of Steven Spielberg's latest movie, Disclosure Day, at AMC South Center on June 8th, which means you get to see it before anybody else. You want a chance to win these tickets? Head on over to KVI.com to enter to win. While you're there, sign up to become a KVI insider so we tell you about all the latest news and events. We don't spam you. In addition to that, you also got the podcast there. You also got my articles there. And I think there's a few articles that we're not discussing until Monday that are up early now. That's right. I do my work in advance of the weekend so I can enjoy my weekend. So you can see the news before we do it on the show. Also, we are giving away two tickets to the Roy Rodeo on June 6th and June 7th. And all week long, I've been saying it's this weekend because Kevin and I were not thinking clearly. I don't know why we thought we were in June already, but we are not. And all week long, we've been saying this weekend, this weekend. It's next weekend.
You got to love that we're even giving the dates every time we talk about it, yet somehow we thought it was this week.
Right. So it's next weekend, guys. We will be there next weekend at the Roy Rodeo. That's June 6th and June 7th. We're not known for our math skills, okay? That's not what we do here. So anyway, that's going to be June 6th and June 7th. Mr. KVI himself and young Zach will be out there on the 6th. I will be out there on the 7th. And all you have to do in order to win tickets to the Roy Rodeo, your chance to win tickets to the Roy Rodeo, is text the word Bronco, as in bucking Bronco, as in O.J. Simpson fled in a white Bronco. Text the word Bronco, Bronco, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Okay, now the story I promised you with all the woke insanity. Then we'll get to some of your calls and the texts. This one here, according to the Post Millennial, a transgender student at Loudoun County's Freedom High School has been accused of filming students in the bathroom at school. But when a victim spoke out after he and his brother were filmed, he was the one suspended and banned from graduation. I kid you, I cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. The student said that Loudoun County Public Schools suspended him for 10 days, banned him from participating in graduation ceremonies because of his message, asking if others had been victimized by the trans person. Quote, sources tell me the filming has been going on for 3 years. More than 40 victims are involved, and that LCPS has known about the secret bathroom recordings for much longer than they're telling parents. Sources also tell me the student is charged with unlawful filming is a male student who goes by a girl's name, wears girls' clothes, and has been seen using girls' and boys' bathrooms at school. The student told the reporters it's an invasion of privacy. He said he wrote on the wall asking who had been victimized by the trans peeper, including an area for others to leave tally marks under yes or no. Several students replied yes. You being a victim, your brother being a victim, is that what compelled you to write this question in the bathroom, the reporter asked. Said it was more just to figure out how many people he's actually affected and just telling people that they get to speak out, that they're not alone. He said it ruined my senior year. I was ready to be done, walk the stage with my friends, have my advisor, say my name, my parents see it, my grandma see it. I'm going to have to call my grandma and tell her that because of me speaking up, I'm not going to be able to walk at graduation. Remember that Loudoun County, Virginia, is the same place where a girl was assaulted by a boy who identified as a girl in the bathroom. And when the father showed up at a school board meeting to scream and yell at the school board about it, rightfully so, he was labeled a domestic terrorist and made into a poster child by the Biden administration of why parents should be declared domestic terrorists and that the DOJ should go after them. I kid you not, that all actually happened. We go to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Sean in Lake Stephen. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, I got a question for you. With all that's been going on in the Middle East right now, has any Islamic regime ever bargained in good faith and then kept their word?
Sort of. Okay? And that's the best I can give you for a second here. I'll say which ones have, okay? And if you mean full-on Islamic, you talking about more moderate or you talking extremists? Because there's different routes of that. So which one are you specifying?
Well, obviously what we're dealing with in Iran right now is the one that's currently on my mind.
Okay, so that's the most extreme one. There's been a peace deal with Egypt for decades now. There's been a peace deal with Jordan for decades now. Now, are they full-on radical Islamist? No, they're not. Could there be a peace deal with Syria? There's kind of like a mutual understanding with Syria right now. In addition to that, you look at the Abraham Accords, where the more moderate countries, the Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain, they all came into the Accords. You got to get the moderates and you got to get out the radicals, which is what I think you're insinuating, right, Sean?
I am.
Yeah, you're not going to have peace with the radicals running the show, with the IRGC running the show. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts. Plus, are we going to be really building the trains we don't have the money for? Or are we not going to be building them? What did Sound Transit decide last night? Give you all the details on the choo-choo when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, do people actually trust that the Sound Transit unaccountable, unelected board can actually deliver on any of their promises? But before we get to any of that, last night I was at a political fundraiser and I ran into Jim Walsh, Representative Walsh, state chair of the GOP, and I completely forgot that in his district is Longview, and the awful disaster that happened at the paper plant down there, where they've found 6 of the 9 victims, the bodies. And this is it's a horrible story about this massive explosion. It's made national news before. A lot of people have been asking how you can help, and a lot of people are worried because they want to know what's a scam and what's not a scam. So actually, I asked Representative Walsh how people could help. And so what he gave me is he actually said, if you go on the Longview Fire Department, the Longview Fire Department's Facebook page, they actually tell you exactly how you can donate to the union of these guys, which is going to be taking care of the families. In addition to that, up on Como News has a website, on their website, about how you can help, and has a link to each of the GoFundMes, the verified GoFundMes for each of these guys' families. They're all up there on the website. You can find them right now. You can do a GoFundMe and a meal train for these guys. So if you live in the area, that's how you can do it. So head on over to go to comonews.com, and you can find right there the story about how you can help the victims in Longview. It's all up there. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible story. I mean, really, really sad story. So going over the text line just to get caught up here, it seems like everybody says Trump should go finish the job. I mean, they kind of are of one mind about this, about how they want to deal with this. Yeah, that's the entire text line, by the way. It's like, bomb Iran. This one here from Frank in Olympia. Ari, God bless Israel and the United States of America. This one from John in Lakewood. Ari, if Israel could identify Grim Beeper targets, can it identify Persian friendlies to arm? Okay, guys, I don't like arming friendlies. We've had this. We've tried this before. I don't like doing that. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Kurt, who's on I-5 right now. Kurt, what's going on?
Well, first of all, prayers for the Longview folks. That's sad, and I'm excited because I'm now almost going to the speed limit. Hey, listen, I just want to do a quick follow-up comment to the discussion about the IRG dismantling not being a part of the negotiation. First of all, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was, but here's my hope and my thought is that Trump is just going to neutralize them, just neuter them so they're ineffective, and let the local citizens be the ones to actually dismantle it as part of building their new government and their new lifestyle. It's an easy win for them and probably a more lasting win. That's my hope.
So here's what I'm concerned about. I study history. Look at Lebanon, right? Lebanon has a government, and the government's basically powerless because Hezbollah is in Lebanon. That's what we don't want to happen. Does that mean giving the moderate government in Iran tools? Does that mean helping them out? Does that mean Israel helps them out? Does that mean the Emirates help them out? Does it mean Saudi Arabia helps them out? What does that actually mean? I think that's the challenge here. You see what I'm saying, Kurt?
That's probably a good question, yep.
Yeah. So here's my thing, right? If the IRGC is still a thing as the IRGC, it's basically going to be Lebanon. That's your problem. And you can't have that happen. And one of the things you need to address is how do you stop the IRGC from being a terrorist regime inside the country? Look at the Houthi rebels out in Yemen. Same kind of deal, right? When we bomb Yemen, we're bombing the Houthi rebels. We like Yemen, the government, in theory, right? But we're having trouble with them. We like the Lebanese government in theory, but it's Hezbollah that actually runs that country. These are the things we have to deal with.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with any of those thoughts. I guess my last parting thought would be is that I do hope that we focus on somehow taking the citizenry and empowering them to sort of control that crap.
Agreed.
On an
And here's the
ongoing
problem.
basis.
Here's what I think is happening. Everybody hoped they would rise up, right? But the Iranian regime killed 50,000 of them, and these people watched it. These people watched it. So they've watched all the horrors for years. So would you rise up under that, assuming, okay, now it's good because Trump said so. Now it's good. Let's go rise up in the streets. That's the problem you're dealing with right now. Kurt, appreciate the call. Drive safe. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Years ago, before I was involved in politics, before I really knew Seattle that well, I had recently moved here, and they were talking about voting for this train line. I remember this. And at the time, I said, wait a minute. You're going to have this Sound Transit Board that is unelectable, unaccountable, and they can raise our taxes whenever they want? I'm all for mass transit, but that is stupid. That is very, very stupid because they're going to raise our taxes through the roof. And this is back when I was paying normal prices for property taxes. This is back when I was paying normal prices for car tabs. This is when I came to Seattle from New York and I said, what is this magnificent land where everything is so cheap and so clean and so beautiful? This is like paradise. It really is the Emerald City. Okay, Pioneer Square is kind of disgusting. But aside from that, this place is glorious. And there's microbreweries this place is great. Fantastic. And then slowly but surely, Sound Transit made my life more expensive, and the Democrats made my life more expensive. In fact, my least favorite moment of Sound Transit, you want to know when I really turned on Sound Transit? They were tearing up Martin Luther King Way, because that's where they put the train. And I remember originally it was going to be, it's going to be an elevated train. So that way it doesn't affect traffic and you can have turnstiles. Yeah, none of that actually happened. But what they do, they were digging up the street and they were directing traffic one way. Now, Kevin's going to appreciate the story more than anybody else, and I will tell you why. I had my 96 Camaro, which we had shipped here from where I lived in New York. Had my 96 Camaro, brought it here. My wife wouldn't let me drive cross country because she was like 12 months pregnant with our firstborn son. So that wasn't happening, but that's what I really wanted to do. So had the car brought here. That was my car. I'm driving. And if you remember, there used to be on Graham and MLK, there used to be a Baskin Robbins. And I love my vanilla milkshakes. Kevin knows, I love my vanilla milkshakes. So what happens? They had an area you were supposed to go to avoid the traffic, but the streets were all torn up. What happens? This guy from, I guess, Sound Transit or whatever company's building the train directs me a certain way, and then I hear this horrible ripping sound. What happened was the body kit on the front of the car, the very low body kit, got torn apart by whatever was happening on the ground. And I said, dude. And he goes, not our fault. And I go, you directed me this way. This is your fault. And he goes, not our fault. It's your car. I go, you sent me this way. This is your fault. Now, the problem was, this is before camera phones. This is before any of that. So I couldn't get a picture. I couldn't get anything. By the time I remembered to go back and get a picture of the road so I could file my complaint, it was paved over. And when I tried to file my complaint, they go, that was paved over days before you said it happened. We don't know what you're talking about. That was $1,000 milkshake, thanks to Sound Transit, to fix that. Oh, I haven't forgotten that, by the way. But aside from that, the way our car tabs have gone up and the way they are billions, what is it, $40 billion, which they don't have, which they need to finish the project, they claim. They're $40 billion behind, years behind schedule. How many times do they have to tear up the train tracks going over I-90, 3, 4 times? Well, last night they had this big meeting, which is basically the meeting of, well, we can't finish this thing and we can't afford this thing. And a lot of people are yelling at us because we're an unelectable, unaccountable board. But there's a lot of other people yelling at us because we promised them the choo-choo trains and we've been taxing them up the wazoo this whole time. And now we can't give them the train. So what are we going to do? So this one, they tried to split the baby. And it is possibly the worst compromise they've ever come up with. So, for example, the Ballard line. This thing's supposed to go out to Ballard. Yeah, they're calling it the Ballard line, but it's not going to Ballard. It's stopping before Ballard. Probably they're hoping that down the road they can finish the Ballard line. It's not going to Ballard.
I think that the way they title these are with expectation. It's still happening, right?
Yeah.
So even if it's
aspirational.
if it ends down at the Seattle Center, we see it continuing on all the way to Ballard. We've already got it planned out. So if you just let us get to this point, it will get to that
It'll
point
keep going.
soon enough.
Now, I'm going to read this line from Como News' coverage of this. They had a 16-2 vote. The only people who voted against this were Dan Strauss and Claudia Balducci. If they're voting against it, by the way, this is a bad plan, okay? Because they are the super transit no matter what. Sound Transit board members said they were able to erase the glaring $34.5 billion funding gap they were facing to build the entire ST3 system on its original schedule. How? Oh, by extending it for 25 years. So you're going to keep taxing us for 25 more years. That's not erasing it. That's bringing in more money off our backs to build your stupid train for the companies that won't be here by then. That's not erasing. That is theft. You promised something. You didn't deliver it. Now you're making us pay for it because you jerks can't do math. Because you keep hiring the same companies to build this thing who keep screwing up again and again and again. Are you kidding me with this? So they say the following projects are fully funded. No, they're not. You guys are basically taking out a loan over the next few years. And you know what's going to happen at the end of 25 years? You ready for this, Kevin? How many of them are still going to be alive? Let's start with that. Dow Constantine will be in a cryotube or something, still collecting his millions of dollars a year. He'll be like Walt Disney's head in the Disney vault. That's what'll be going on with him, right? Right, Dow Constantine? Okay.
Yeah, probably. But I'm just glad that they made – it looks like their promise is going to be kept with my neighborhood because I think our stop opens up in a couple of months here.
Okay.
So, and it's opening up early.
Good for you, Kevin.
So I'm all happy. I'm like, that's all I need.
There's something else here.
I don't need it to go to Ballard. Sorry. No disrespect to the people from Ballard. That would be nice. But if it's going to take as long as you say, you're right. I'm going to be in a walker by then.
Exactly.
So I'm probably not right. Actually, we're going to be teleporting by then.
Yeah. No, we'll have the self-driving cars. What do we need any of this for? Everybody will just be tweeting while the car's driving them to work. They don't need the stupid train. Yeah. In addition to that, they're making a stop at Seattle Center. I thought you guys hooked this thing into the monorail to go to Seattle. So you're making the monorail, which exists, useless now?
I think what they heard was Ari Hoffman complaining about the monorail shuts down too early. So they're like, we got a better idea. We'll build a brand new track and we'll have our train go there until 1 a.m.
You know what this is like? This is like my college. So I go to this college. It's an all-boys Jewish college in New York. And whenever you complain about something, they made it worse. So, for example, they used to have a shuttle that ran every half hour. And we wanted an express shuttle or we wanted this shuttle that ran every half hour to the girls' campus, which was in Midtown Manhattan. We were in Upper Manhattan, and they were in Midtown Manhattan. It was convenient for people at internships or dates or whatever to go down there. And we said, hey, can we have the express shuttle more often? Next thing you know, the shuttle is only once an hour. Then it's like twice a morning and twice in the evening. It is not the schedule it used to be because we complained. There was this patch of grass we used to play football on, which has all these pathways around it. And we said, hey, guys, can we get rid of one of the pathways, which nobody walks on anyway, just to have a little bit more grass in Manhattan, just a little bit more. They plopped a statue in the middle of the football area. In fact, when I tell my son, I'm like, we used to play football there. He's like, where? I go, well, that sucker didn't used to be there. So you complain about something, and then they make it worse. That's sound transit. So, my friends, you want me to go through all the details of this? I'm not going to, because though Sound Transit says these things are going to happen, I say, no, they're not. This time next year, Kevin, so they think it's died down for now. This time next year, we will be doing this story again. Well, they promised this, but we don't have the money for that, and we're running behind schedule, and the stop that's supposed to be opening this week at Kevin's house isn't opening till 3 years from now, right? We know that's what's going to happen.
No,
right?
It's all done.
Oh, it's done.
It's done.
Well, hang on. Don't be so sure, sir. The Judkins stop, which is the one that goes to the I-90 bridge, that was sitting there since my daughter was 5. Just sitting there.
So
she's 15 now.
If I remember correctly, this was supposed to supposed to open up in like 2030, I think.
Okay.
But your friend Deborah Juarez
My best good friend.
listened to the
Yes.
neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
I believe it was her, and got it expedited. So
Expedited.
yeah, so
Yes.
they're like, you know what? Turns out we're gonna open it up a little
I
earlier
gotcha.
and finish it. And so,
So-
they've been like pedal to the metal. I know, because driving to my house now, getting it to and from the freeway because of all of this nonsense.
Yes.
I know it's coming to an end because I see it every day, so I can see that it's coming to an end.
Well, I'll tell you this, is that I think this is a great way to deal with the gang violence. We're going to say, guys, you know what? We don't have to close the streets. All the gang members, the pimps, the prostitutes, the drug dealers, they're going to take mass transit now. We're going to force them onto the trains. We're going to close all the streets in the neighborhood, and then everybody's going to have to take the trains, right? We'll do that. This sounds like a great plan, right? No, that's going to be as effective as the
technically, they
planters.
could already do that if they wanted to. I mean, exactly where you're talking. I can,
Yeah.
in my mind, see where I could take a scooter. Like, hey, if I want to get mixed up in that shooting, I could hop on the scooter from the train there, and just head
Sure.
over the freeway. And in fact,
Sure.
honestly, I take that way quite a bit when I go to my friend's house. If I'm going to hop on a scooter,
Yeah.
I kind of take that way. I'm not going that way anymore.
Yeah, so
Probably
that's
should avoid that.
in New York. There were two subway stops near where my apartment was. Right, there was the Death Trap one and the one that's slightly safer. You always go the slightly safer one, but the other one had the express line, and you're like, all right, if I time it exactly right, I can get the express line and not die in the subway station at the same time.
Right,
This is the
right.
way. Is it worth going through the bad neighborhood to get to
Right.
where I'm going like 20 minutes faster? And a lot of times
It's
I
like
said
that.
yes.
It's like that scene in Jeremiah Johnson where they could quietly go through the Native American cemetery and save like 2 days' journey,
yes.
or go around it, but
Yes.
and not upset the Native Americans.
But no, let's go
bad
through that
choice.
sucker. Yes,
Bad
exactly.
choice.
Did the same thing in Young Guns too. Those guys just don't learn their lesson. I knew this caller would be calling in. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe, who I'm sure has thoughts on all of this. Transit Joe, what's going on, man?
Well, what's going on is last night, the Sound Transit Board, in the longest meeting in the history of Sound Transit, closed the gap from $33 billion to $10 billion, and is going to put in fare gates, and is going to continue to fully design Ballard, and also, work harder to deliver a light rail in our lifetimes. I'm not exactly as cynical as you are, but I would really appreciate it, instead of sending the druggies and such to the trains, that you very simply take up the suggestion I gave you yesterday to buy retired A-10 Warthogs and solve the problem that way.
You know, Joe, I love the solution you're presenting, because if we could take out the gang violence with the warthogs, I think that would be a lot of fun. But I'll tell you this, Joe, to fully design Ballard, that means they're not building it. They're designing it. That means they don't even have the money or how much it's going to cost to actually build it, which means we will probably not see the Ballard line in our lifetimes, assuming Sound Transit's
Okay.
still even a thing by then.
It will be, because we've heard the robot cars for a long time, and they're still not here. And I'll add something else as well.
Whoa,
There
hang
are
on,
efforts
Joe.
to get-
I've been
hang on.
in the robot cars. I've been in them. They're horrifying, but they're here, my man.
Okay. Well, here's the other thing, too, respectfully. There are going to be efforts to get 75-year bonds authority from the state legislature.
Oh, my
and the
God.
federal government
Oh, my God,
is going
Joe.
to give money to Sound Transit.
Joe, can I give you a homework assignment? Okay, please. I'm going to give you a homework assignment. You give me a lot of reading material. I'm going to give you something fun. I want you to watch one Simpsons episode for me, okay? Can you watch the Monorail Simpsons episode for me? And then you'll see where my upbringing comes from with this stuff.
I completely understand where your cynicism comes from a cartoon, but I live in the real world, and I tell you, there's no Simpsons at the Sound Transit.
Joe,
Roof is the
75
boardroom.
years. That's like how we were paying for the Kingdom for a decade after it didn't exist anymore. 75
But we paid
years.
it off before 75 years. We paid it off before 75 years, so we can do the same for the Heidi Will station in Ballard.
Oh, Joe, I love you, man. I absolutely love you. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts. Plus, also, the government has a new alien website, but it's not the kind of aliens you think. Yeah, they clickbaited me with this one, and I fell for it hard. We'll tell you what it's all about when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Contest, my friends. So the first contest we are running is for you to win a pair of tickets to an advanced screening of Disclosure Day, which is the latest Steven Spielberg flick at AMC South Center on June 8th. You get to see it before anybody else. If you want the tickets to Disclosure Day, head on over to kvi.com, enter there for your chance to win. It's right up there. Now, while you're there, sign up to become a KVI Insider. And also while you're there, you can see new articles from me. You can get the podcast. You can stream the show live. Lots of good stuff. We're also going to be adding video to the website hopefully next week. So lots of good stuff coming over there. In addition to that, we have our second contest of the week. This one is you can win a pair of tickets to the Roy Rodeo. Now, I have to remind everybody again, Kevin and I have been saying the wrong day all week long. It's not this weekend. It is next weekend. So the Roy Rodeo is June 6th and June 7th. That's next Saturday and Sunday. Mr. KVI himself and young Zach will be there on Saturday. I will be there on Sunday. All you have to do to have your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Roy Rodeo is text the word Bronco, as in bucking Bronco, as in O.J. Simpson fled in a white Bronco, B-R-O-N-C-O. Text that to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Warren in Stanwood. Warren, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ori, I'm curious. When they first voted on this light rail thing, they most likely voted on a set amount of money. Where do they get the authority to just keep adding and adding taxes to people without them voting on it? I'm curious.
You're going to hate this answer. Are you ready, Warren? You're going to hate this answer. I'm apologizing in advance that you're going to hate this answer. As part of voting for the choo-choo trains originally, it was to establish this board that can create taxes without the voters. And people warned about it at the time, and people were not listening and voted for it because they wanted the dumb train.
Wow, that's pretty sad.
Yep. And at the time, people were warning about it. I mean, look, I was a consumer of talk radio before I became part of talk radio. And a lot of people, Kirby Wilbur, John Carlson, lots of people, Dory, they were all talking about this. And yet people voted for it anyway. Isn't that sad?
Very sad. All right. Hey, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. You have a great weekend, man. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one here from Robin Lakewood. He says, Sound Transit, Democrats lining their comrades' pockets. Well, maybe the contractor, because by now you should have fired that contractor. I mean, they can't even get escalators to work right. But at this point, where's the money actually going? The properties they've bought or taken through eminent domain, I remember a while ago they gave them to Seattle Public Schools or were just selling them. I mean, come on. Can we be real about this? Can we have a full investigation of Sound Transit? John in Auburn says, Ari, doesn't Dow run Sound Transit now? It's $1 million milkshake brought to us by Democrats. Always has been. Yes, exactly right. Matt, you smart, you know what, you. He says your wife was 12 months pregnant. Is that a Jewish thing? No, I was just commenting on, well, if I say this on air, somebody's going to get mad at me, especially my wife. So I'm not going to say that. But let's just say she was toward the end of the pregnancy. Looked like the letter T turned on its side. Anyway. This one here from Rob also says, we'll have flying cars before Sound Transit is finished. Yes, exactly. This one here from the 425. Ari, here's my Seattle prediction. By the time they build the light rail to Ballard, the entire city will be bus and bike lanes. Yeah, nobody's taking Sound Transit, so no more cars allowed on any roads whatsoever. Yes, exactly. This one here from Ingrid. Hi, Ari. One of my dearest friends is originally from Iran. She has been saying from the very beginning exactly what you guys were talking about, that President Trump, our military, the CIA, or whoever needs to go after the IRGC and dismantle it entirely. Trying to negotiate with them or bombing the heck out of them isn't really going to do much good. They don't care if they die or if hundreds of thousands of their population dies. Their corrupt leadership needs to be destroyed from within somehow. Yes, exactly right. That's what we got to do. This one here from John. Ari, this is more like Groundhog Day. Bill Murray is a Seattle resident reliving his property taxes constantly being increased. It ends with him moving next to Jay Inslee in Idaho. We've got a Jay Inslee story later in the show, my friends. I promise that we do. So the White House launches a new website yesterday. What was the website? The Trump administration launched aliens.gov, and I got all excited. Is this going to be the UFO document? What are we talking about here? It was CGI-style video showing a UFO lifting a man over the U.S.-Mexico border while warning Americans about aliens living among them. The site uses science fiction themes and several misdirections as part of its campaign of anti-illegal immigration messaging by the Trump administration. Guys, as funny as this is, you paid somebody to build this thing. And if we're talking about no government waste, why are you paying somebody? It's funny. Don't get me wrong. There are some great memes on here. Look, the White House meme game is beyond compare. But did you really have to spend money on the alien side? Look, they were trying to do that whole the UFO documents. They were trying to cash in on the Steven Spielberg Disclosure Day, which you could win tickets for by going to our website at kvi.com. They were trying to do all that. I understand that. It's funny. It's great. It's entertaining. Makes for great fodder. Somebody was paid to do that, guys. Somebody was paid to do that. We don't need to be spending the money on that. Okay, where's Doge when you need him? Up next, my friends, can we be using AI to track fraud in Washington? Well, our next interview figured out how to do it. And they found some absolutely insane stuff. And they're an average citizen just like you and me. If they can do it, you can do it too. We'll tell you how when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, there are so many stories out there that you wouldn't know about if not for citizen watchdogs, if not for independent journalists. If the mainstream media did this stuff, you wouldn't need the citizen watchdogs. I remember growing up, my parents always had the TV on at dinner time for the news so that we would be informed. And there were always these problem solvers. Let's see what's going on. Let's go investigate these things. You don't see those kind of shows anymore. They're not on the news. But now it's a lot of citizen watchdogs actually doing the work, and they're being assisted with technology. Joining us now to discuss, he used to be involved in government, but now he's just a concerned citizen like the rest of us. Viet Nguyen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ari. I appreciate the time on this show. Yeah, let's talk.
Well, I'll tell you is that I appreciate everything you're doing on social media. There are a few people who are out there putting themselves out there with their voices, but also using AI, using different technology where they don't have the massive resources of an entire newsroom or an entire staff, and yet AI is helping you go through all these documents and possibly locate alleged fraud.
Yeah, when I started on this journey, it was really this issue that cropped up around the state income tax this year. I for a long time I'd been out of government. I did not want to have anything to do with it, and then I sort of I sort of saw this slow motion train wreck sort of coming through at us down in Olympia, and so it started this interesting journey for me in regards to utilizing these new tools that are really very new. Agentic AI is a really new type of deal, and so I was thinking, well, how do I sort of marry the two things, the concern that I have and utilizing the technology to be able to better understand what's going on. So the first part of it was for me, and then as I started to go along, I said, I'm seeing a lot of people asking the same questions. And so maybe if I start to put some of this stuff online, it'll resonate with people, and it seems to be doing quite well in that regard.
Well, I see people citing you all the time. You pop up in my social media feed all the time, and anytime I click on your stuff, I say, this is great stuff. This is amazing stuff. And you're basically doing this out of your house. You're doing this out of a laptop, and you're doing this with AI's assistance. And I think it actually gives inspiration to a lot of our listeners who send me tips all the time. Look what I found. And I'll say sometimes, oh, there's nothing here, but maybe if you dig there and they find something else. But you're able to dig up these documents where I remember getting back during COVID, thousands of pages of documents and public disclosure requests. No way I could go through it on my own. But now you're saying AI helps you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the key powers that AI lets you do, is to be able to pull together a large volume of data, large volume of documents. And nobody's got the time to, unless you're a hardened researcher, nobody's really got the time to kind of sift through all that and understand what the main idea is about that. And that's one of the key things I think that's important for folks to realize, right? When folks sort of think about AI, they're thinking about ChatGPT from 2022. It's like, oh, I've got this chat bot, and I'm asking it questions, and it comes back and it gives me some answers. Sometimes it's wrong, but what we saw earlier this year is right around January of this year is we've entered a new phase in the world of AI, and it is really now able to do long-term tasks. And one of those tasks that you can do is actually let it go out there, search the data sources out there in the world, and actually find the right data. It exists out there somewhere, and then to come back and actually do work with it. And so that's what agentic means. It's that with generative AI, you're asking it questions. With agentic AI, it's actually doing work.
So I guess AI is kind of a double-edged sword, because we're talking about AI doing a lot of work that used to have interns or young up-and-comers doing that kind of work. Newsrooms don't really have those people anymore, and a lot of people are concerned that their jobs are going away. But people I talk to in the tech field goes, yes, that concern exists, but there's a lot of people who are learning how to program AI to do more to keep their jobs relevant. Are you worried about this being what takes down the Washington economy? Because I look at it and I see AI being used as an excuse for a lot of these big companies to be laying people off. I mean, you saw Starbucks saying we're going to do layoffs in our tech department because of AI, but they're hiring 2,000 people over in Nashville. So it doesn't sound like that's an AI problem.
Yeah, I think there's this old adage, right? That old, right? It's probably like a few years now, but The adage is, AI is not going to cost you your job. It's actually the person that utilizes AI that'll cost you your job. And so we're going through, I think, a major reshift right now in the economy. This is the biggest thing to hit us probably since the invention of electricity. Okay, so this is not a small deal, and so folks, I think, when they think about this, they're terrified, rightly terrified, but they're also if you think about it this way, we've all been given essentially the ability to use fire for the first time, and it's now you have this ability that you've never had before, and the only question is, are you going to do it? Are you going to use it? And the capabilities that this unleashes now gives people the ability to do the work of 100 people, maybe 1,000 people, if you're managing this correctly. These sites that I've been putting together, I put together a few sites, and I think you sort of mentioned it at the top there. They were done in about 2 to 3 hours a piece, right? And if you try to, in the old world pre-AI, it would take a month, right? And you'd have web developers, and you'd have researchers, and you'd have maybe some maybe a software engineer or something like that to kind of piece things together. This can be done all incredibly quickly, but also at a level of fidelity and accuracy that is really demanded.
So what's the kind of stuff that you've been finding? You've been putting all these websites together. You've been digging into all the stuff you've been finding. You've been going through documents. You've been going through websites. You've been tasking AI with doing all this research. What's some of the more startling things that you found?
Well, so as a part of this this site that I put together, it's called the Washington Accountability Registry. What I said to myself was, a lot of these stories that sort of come out, these scandals and things like that, covered by the news media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very well, by the way. I have a lot of respect for what you guys do and what news media do, but those end up being stories, and they end up kind of drifting off into into space after a while. So I wanted to provide a space where these could live in a perpetuity. And I'll tell you, like some of these things, like the realization that we are bleeding out over $500 million a year in the state of Washington due to tort settlements, right? Civil tort settlements, was a shocker. I mean, it wasn't a shocker, I think, for some people, but it was certainly for me. And so I was looking at this, and for a state budget of 80 billion, if you're bleeding out at 500 million annually on settlements, and that's expected to increase to about 2.5 billion over the next biennium, and highball estimates are even up to 3.5 billion by the year 2029. That I looked at that, I was just like, holy cow, how do I find out more about this?
Mm-hmm.
So I set the AI on this task of in sort of building together this registry, looking at things like that, right? And uncovering the news stories and trying to put them together into specific cases, and to also keep it updated, but also to be written in a way that people would understand, right? So one of the things that I do for this site and for the other sites is to create like this funnel, this intake system where the AI examines the data in multiple different ways, right? It'll look at it through the eyes of a layman. It'll look at it through the eyes of a lawyer, right? Because I don't want to end up in jail. And I don't want to post up something that gets me in jail.
Yeah.
It'll look at it through the eyes of a researcher and fact checker. So I asked these things specifically, for it to set up these guardrails for me. So now I've got this ability to, if somebody emails me and says, "Hey, look at this thing. Does it work? Does it fit on that page?" All I do is just basically paste in that email and tell the AI to run it through the intake system, and it'll spit out yeah, this is good. Should we continue to proceed and post it up, or should we hold off because it's doesn't fit the criteria that you specified.
And what drew my attention to this site when you posted it is, I'm just going to list a few of the things off the top here. You have the King County Regional Homeless Authority forensic audit, 13 million unaccounted, 44.7 million negative cash position, and yet they're saying, "Oh, we fixed it. We fixed it in 2 weeks since this has been exposed. We fixed it, and we'll solve it. Sound Transit, their massive shortfall, and they're saying, okay, don't worry, over 25 years, we'll fix this thing, which we have no reason to believe them because it's been 20 years of this disaster so far. I mean, you name it, you go down this list, but the tort thing is also something that jumped out at me, and I don't think anybody's looking at this stuff at all, and if not for you, I don't think anybody would have even known half these things were going on.
Yeah, it's weird. I think we hear about it again, right? From different media sources. They're covering all of these stories, and for them, like, yeah, it's an old story, right? But for, I think, Joe average public, right? We're hearing just like this, the volume, the deluge of all of this, crazy, nasty stuff is out there. I can't remember all this stuff. I can't sort it in my head. And I can't even find the story, like 3 months from now, right? Like where is that? It's probably on some site somewhere. And on some of these government sites, they probably, want to bury it too, right? And so, one of the things that we do on this site is to actually use the archived copy, right? So you go there, you see that there's a link to it, to the source, and then there's also a link to the Wayback Machine source. So there's proof, right? And
Sure.
there's perpetual proof in terms of where we are, and also keeping track of how far it's gone, because in some cases there has been some improvements, right? They have been some reforms that have been undertaken, not many, unfortunately.
Definitely none in
But
Washington. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you wanna as kind of go through that, you want to know, okay, have they fixed the issue, or haven't they, right? And so this is just a way to keep up to speed on where we are with that. And so all of this volume of work, right, is again, would require probably a whole team of people to actually update it and keep it fresh and everything. And one of the things that AI can do is I've set this up as what are called cron jobs, so that it will automatically schedule an update. So for that accountability side, it updates every month. It'll go through, look at all the cases, and basically look through and see if there's been any movement on that.
Fantastic.
On the other site, I've got that involves the state Supreme Court candidates. That one's updated weekly, because it's a campaign season and people want fresh data.
This is really amazing. I wish I had like an hour and a half. I wish I could do the whole show just talking to you about this stuff, because the amount of fraud that you've uncovered, the amount of just research that you've done to showcase candidates, all this stuff is just incredible. Viet Nguyen, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And thank you for being an amazing resource for all of us who are trying to get the word out on this stuff.
Thank you, Ari. And of course, you are a resource as well for everybody out there, and really appreciate you continuing to cover these stories. And I think we're all in this together.
That's very kind of you to say. I mean, I look at that and it's like, oh my God, Joe Namath called me a good quarterback. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Viet Nguyen, thank you so much. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. And when we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I do feel fine because all of Jay Inslee's fear-mongering over climate change, it's like he's dialed it up since the UN said it's not an emergency anymore and they were wrong. It's like Jay Inslee has to prove to the world that he's right. So he's got this post that goes up, and some of you at the fundraiser last night said, Ari, we missed the Jay Inslee impression. Okay, here we go, guys. You get Jay Inslee today. While Trump has spent years yelling at windmills like a modern-day Quixote, American workers were busy building the future. He might try to slow us down, but clean energy is too durable to be derailed by one Don's ego. And he puts up a post about the wind boom, the wind turbine boom. Really? There isn't a wind boom. There isn't. You look around at what's going on. In fact, a lot of places are taking these suckers down because they're not as effective as they thought. This is Jay Inslee pushing a false narrative. Remember what happened in Texas with these suckers? Remember what happened when they didn't have power because they were relying on this? Not the best commercial for them. Really not the best commercial. I looked up this article he cited, the wind boom that Trump couldn't stop. Yeah, when you put that in the headline, you know this is going to be biased garbage, and that's what it was. Biased garbage. This is by some nature and environment advocacy group. It just ain't true. In fact, Washington is still doubling down on these failed policies. So Washington doesn't have the money for Medicaid, they cut Medicaid. They doesn't have the money for Medicare, they cut Medicare. They doesn't have the money for this, they don't have the money for that. Washington launches $112 million program to help businesses switch to electric vehicles. $112 million. If it was profitable, business would do it. According to King 5, Washington State is rolling out a $112 million program aimed at helping businesses make the switch to electric vehicles, offering steep discounts on trucks, vans, and other commercial equipment as officials try to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels. The Washington Zero Emission Incentive Program, otherwise known as WAZIP, opens to applicants, and with state leaders expecting strong demand in its first round of funding. Now, what's funny about this story is actually back in the end of April. It's been exactly a month since this article came out. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little public disclosure request and find out exactly how much demand there actually was. Because my guess is it's businesses that go, well, I mean, if you're going to pay for our truck, then we'll go buy the truck. But we don't really need to spend the money on that. So are those electric trucks more expensive than the rest? Oh, they are? Yeah, maybe we won't do that. Under the program, companies, nonprofits, and public agencies can receive up to 40% off the cost of qualifying zero-emission vehicles and equipment, including freight trucks, delivery vans, construction machinery, and some maritime uses. So hang on a second here. 40% off for public agencies. That means if the city of Seattle wants to feel good about themselves and buy themselves a whole bunch of Teslas, oh, wait, they're not going to buy those. That's the evil Elon Musk. Then buy themselves a bunch of eco-friendly vehicles, the government's going to pay for it. So the government's going to pay for another government to buy electric vehicles. Do you see how the scam works? Do you understand this? Turd Ferguson said we're investing $112 million to make the purchase of cleaner commercial vehicles and equipment more affordable for a wide range of companies, big and small, all across Washington State. The effort is designed to address one of the biggest hurdles facing businesses interested in electrifying their fleets, the upfront costs. No, that's not the biggest hurdle. The cost is a hurdle. You know what the biggest hurdle is right now? You don't get the range you would under gasoline. It takes forever to charge these suckers. So even with the fast chargers, you got to find one where a homeless guy hasn't stolen the copper wiring out of it. Look, I love the EVs. They are fast. They are convenient. They are not good for delivery vehicles yet, guys. You do not have the range you want. It's not like you just pull in anywhere to charge these suckers. So because of that, now you got a problem. Now you can't get the same delivery schedule. I know that back when I was delivering stuff for my company, sometimes I'd have to fill up twice in one day. You are not able to do that with the electric vehicles, even with the fast charging stations, because it depends on where your route is. And if you're going out to the sticks, good luck finding chargers out there. And if you're going into the urban centers, good luck finding chargers where the homeless haven't ripped the copper wiring out of them. Are there chargers that are available? Absolutely there are. I don't want to say they're not. But have you seen horror story after horror story after horror story of people trying to do road trips and they can't find the chargers they need when they're trying to do the road trips with these guys? Hybrid is the way to go. EVs are not there yet. You get the batteries to have a longer life. You get the cost down. Yeah, let's do that. Seriously. But the hybrids, holy cow, I love that sucker. The last hybrid I had for my friends over at Renton, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, the last one I had, I think I filled that thing up once a month. Once a month. It was incredible. The EVs I had, they were great because I had a home charger installed and I could install them, so they're great for commuting. They are great for commuting. They're great for just going around your general area, the places you go. I highly recommend the EVs. I really, really do. I love those suckers. And they were faster than my Dodge Charger. But for a delivery use, guys, I don't think we're there yet. I really don't think we're there yet, and we're still subsidizing this. You should be pushing the hybrids. Instead, you're leapfrogging over the hybrids, which are proven, which people like. Everybody I know who drives a hybrid loves it. Mind you, everybody I know who drives an EV loves it, but they're not taking those suckers on road trips. They have another car that they're taking on their road trips. So now think about the guys doing the deliveries. That's the thing to think about. Up next, my friends, so much more to discuss. Katie Wilson is like the Hindenburg, her administration. More trouble in paradise. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Lars will be unleashed as we discuss what's going on in the Longview School District. Looks like more staff are now being suspended, and parents have some thoughts of their own on what's going on. But before we get to any of that, my friends, I saw this report, and it came out a month ago, and nobody noticed it. It's just like company after company after company are leaving Washington, and nobody's paying attention. A global photonics manufacturer is shutting down its Washington operations and moving work overseas, adding another round of layoffs to a growing list of companies reducing their footprint here in Washington. Novanta Corporation, through its Sinrad Laser Technology Division, is closing its Mukilteo facility and eliminating 83 jobs as operations are relocated to an affiliated site in the United Kingdom. According to a warrant filing with the Washington State Employment Security Department, layoffs are scheduled to begin July 7th and continue through March 2027. So here's something else I didn't know. Chalk this up to being a relatively new radio host. Kevin, you know they send out these warrant filings and emails? They send them out in emails. I subscribed to the list, and I went back to it. Hundreds of companies are on there. Ones you heard of, one you know. Kevin, would you like to know about which Jack in the Box is closing? Because it's on that list. They list everything there. The Mukilteo facility specializes in CO2 laser technology used in precision manufacturing and industrial applications. The closure affects engineering, customer support, manufacturing-related operations tied to their photonics business. The move is the latest sign of mounting pressure on Washington's economy as companies continue cutting jobs, shrinking office space, relocating operations, or directing future growth elsewhere. Meta, we know about their layoffs, 1,400 in King County as part of 8,000 employees nationally and internationally, but I bet you're going to keep finding out about more and more here in our area. Let's not forget, they had these big expansions for Bellevue. They scaled back that expansion. They gave up office space. You got a whole bunch of people moving out to Tennessee. Starbucks is moving out to Tennessee. Soak and Sage, a high-end spa, they're moving their headquarters to Tennessee because they said, if all the high earners are going to Tennessee, we need our high earner clients, and we're going with them. We talked about aerospace supplier Janicki Industries. They're a beast, by the way. I didn't even know what they did. They are an absolute beast. I didn't realize how big they were. Delta Camshaft, we've spoken about at great length around here. Genie Industries, the guys who make those lifts that go up and down, up and down. I mean, it's Howard Schultz. I know everybody has their mixed feelings about Howard Schultz and the Sonics and all that. He called out Seattle in the Wall Street Journal. Now, mind you, things are not getting better for Katie Wilson. Not at all. When Christine Gregoire, who is held in high esteem by Democrats here in Washington, is talking about how bad the business climate is, you know you're in trouble. And we've played this clip of her at this business conference a few times. But what's interesting is Como News went and got the clips of everybody else at this conference. Carrie Schroeder of J.P. Morgan Chase also spoke at this thing. Here's what she said.
I thought about this one a lot. I think about this. I think companies notice mindset of a city. Regions that project confidence, that are behaving pragmatically, that are tackling challenges constructively, that are investing in themselves as a way to make the region stronger and better, are places that attract more capital.
So are we doing anything to invest in ourselves? Some people are going to say the train. The train ain't going to do it because they're doing everything else they can to chase businesses out. And when you've got this bad national PR, it's not getting any better. Now, Katie Wilson probably thinks, screw the business community. It's the big banks. It's the big banks. What do I need them for? Katie, don't you still live in a rental? Don't you still live in a rental, or now you have enough money to qualify for a mortgage? Maybe. Oh, you need a bank for that mortgage? Or mom and dad hook you up? Which one is it? You've got Christine Gregoire, and she's probably thinking, you probably have Katie Wilson thinking to herself, oh, she's really not really a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm a socialist. Christine Gregoire is the old school. I'm the new version. They're the dinosaurs. I'm the new version. Well, how about Nordstrom? Co-CEO Eric Nordstrom. Here's what he said at the conference.
While costs have risen in our region, Washington as a state is increasingly more expensive to do business in. Seattle as a city is increasingly more expensive as a city within Washington to do business in. The return for that increased cost is not very evident. And I think that's a big threat that we need to get out of that cycle where it's the energy is around new revenue and have more of the energy around the accountability and what we're getting for that investment.
To me, the biggest risk isn't any one policy.
That's the end of what he said. And now here's something to think about. I wonder who Eric Nordstrom has been donating to. Has he been donating to Democrats? Who has Kerry Schroeder been donating to? Because we know that a lot of these guys are donating to Democrats and then going, I don't understand. Why are my taxes so much more expensive? I don't understand what happened here. But here's something else to think about. Nordstrom closed multiple locations in San Francisco. They closed multiple stores because of how bad things got in San Francisco. Eric Nordstrom actually referenced this in his little talk.
An example I share would be San Francisco. We closed our store downtown San Francisco at the beginning of the pandemic, and our lease was up, and it was an unprofitable store. A big part of it was shoplifting, shrinkage of inventory. It was a lot of crime there. We had a chance to go down and spend some time seeing what's happened since we left and talking to some of the city officials. And it's a remarkable story. Crime is way down. There's a vibrancy that is real down in the city. But what struck me more was the kind of unified energy around the city of kind of investing in the city, from the mayor's office to businesses to nonprofits. And when I asked about that, I said, "Gosh, how'd you do that?" Because there's so much that pulls us apart in our communities.
Okay, so they have a more moderate mayor who said, we're not putting up with the drugs anymore, we're not putting up with the homelessness anymore, and we're going to clean it up. It's crazy to me that a few years ago, when every day we were doing a different story about a business bailing on San Francisco, now we're doing it on Seattle. And the crazy thing is, a lot of the tech bros that have companies here are talking about going back to San Francisco because they liked it there until they went crazy. And then they were looking for a blue state they could go to, so they came here until it went crazy. So they're going to go back there, they're going to vote their conscience, and they're going to destroy it again. And we're just going to keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until people figure out you should be a Republican, until people figure that, or maybe they'll never figure it out. Now, the one who ticks me off the most is Brad Smith. Brad Smith is the Microsoft president. This guy has donated to every cause under the sun. And he acts like he's surprised about how bad the business climate is here.
The elephant in every room these days is the three-letter word that starts with T and ends with X and is called tax. And I do think it's an important conversation for us to have as a political community, with a common understanding of the facts, and then with some real creativity as to how to think about it. The first thing that I would offer is Washington is now a high-tax state. We weren't historically, but we should start to internalize what we need to do if we want to compete as a high-tax state. Part of what we should do is study the other high-tax states, which are basically Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Minnesota, Oregon, California, Hawaii, and now put Washington into that mix. I think from a business perspective, including predictability, but also call it the stacking of taxes. There's 5 categories of taxes to look at. You build a table, and do this all the time. There's the personal income tax, the capital gains tax, the estate tax, the sales tax, especially the sales tax that businesses pay, and then other business taxes, like the B&O tax we have here. And then what's really interesting is then you look at rankings, and if you look at the other states that are high, they have some really interesting strategic choices they have made. For example, California has the #1 income tax, and it has the #1 capital gains tax. It has a 0.0 estate tax. So they keep people paying those taxes by letting them know that if they stay there and they pass away there, then their descendants are going to get what they have built. New Jersey is very similar. Yeah, high income and capital gains tax, but a 0.0 estate tax. Now, the really important thing for us to just internalize for Washington State is will now be tied with the 4th highest capital gains tax, the 5th highest personal income tax, the highest estate tax, a top 10 sales tax at the state level for business, higher than New York, higher than New Jersey, as well as one of the top 10 states for business taxes as a percentage of state and local budgets. So we've decided to basically be either a top 1, top 5, or top 10 state in all 5 of those categories.
And that's why businesses are leaving, and that's why wealth is leaving, and that's why home sales or home listings are going through the roof. That's why people are listing their homes, because they're like, nope, not going to do it. I'm not going to let you tax me my whole life and then take my money again when I'm dead and I can't leave it to people. That's why they're leaving. Now, Brad Smith, I know how he votes. I know who he donates to. He is maxed out to Turd Ferguson and every Democrat. So him saying all this, I'm taking with a mountain of salt because you supported this. Bob Ferguson has been talking about this for years. Democrats have been talking about this for years. You did this, Brad. So I don't really feel bad for you. But the crazy thing to me is Katie Wilson put up a video the other day. I'm not even going to bother playing it for you. She does this thing whenever there's a controversy that goes viral. She puts up a little video trying to make fun of it, and she's never successful. So what's she talking about this time? How she's being blamed for the state income tax, and she's claiming Olympia did that. You are the same person who is demanding more taxes here in Seattle, even though you're watching these businesses flee. And what's our bang for our buck? What's the investment here in Seattle? Is our fire department better? No, they still don't have enough firefighters. Is our police department better? No, they're down hundreds of officers and nobody wants to work for Katie Wilson. Are our roads better? Holy cow. I don't know who's running the Department of Transportation in Seattle. Their road repairs are some of the worst I've ever seen. I cannot believe how bad this is in my neighborhood. There was a pipe leak underground. They fixed the pipe leak, and then they call out the Department of Transportation. I have never seen such a mess. I actually said you need an off-roading vehicle, not exaggerating, to go over this thing. It's so dangerous. I actually have to veer into the other lane of traffic to go around this thing in my neighborhood. It is so bad. And it's not just one street. It's lots of streets. Streets they just redid a couple years ago are already falling apart. So you can't claim we're safer. You can't claim we have better emergency services. You can't claim we have better roads. What are we paying for? So a lot of people are saying, oh, look at the view. You don't get this anywhere else. Okay, I love it. But you know what? I can look at it on videos. Or I can come up here on vacation. And that's what a lot of people are thinking. And they're thinking we're just getting out of here. Imagine if you live in North Seattle right now. North Seattle having the gang violence, the pimp violence on a nightly basis. It's so bad they have to put their own barricades out in the streets to block the drug dealers and the pimps from driving through their neighborhoods and shooting at each other. City comes along today. There's a big press release from Katie Wilson and Deborah Juarez, and you know what it says? Here's what it says. It says, we're going to give you new barriers. So the street you were supposed to put the barriers on originally as part of your Closing the Streets program during COVID, which you didn't do. Now you're going to put barriers there, even though the residents already put the barriers there, because you're not actually going to get police, because you're not actually going to get fire, because you're not actually going to have a Department of Transportation that does anything about it. Instead, you're just going to do this. This is your plan to deal with gang violence. Not arrest the criminals, not prosecute the criminals, not keep them behind bars, and not just release them. No, you're just going to keep churning them out and churning them out and churning them out. Because Katie Wilson doesn't believe in law and order. Katie Wilson wants to defund the police department. She wants to abolish the police department, except for the ones that drive her everywhere in the big SUV. She wants to be climate conscious, except for the big SUV she enjoys being driven around in. Katie Wilson wants mass transit and bike lanes and bus lanes everywhere, but she likes being driven around in her SUV, her big, giant SUV. She doesn't care how bad she makes your life. She's got a police escort in her big, giant SUV. Can you imagine being a national joke like Katie Wilson? You know, the problem is Katie Wilson's raised by college professors. She thinks she's smarter than everybody else. She thinks she is actually smarter. And if she just stays the course, everything will be fine. That's what it is. I guarantee you that's what it is. Just watch. Just watch. As soon as the World Cup is over and the eyes of the world are no longer on Seattle, immediately it's going to be whatever. She's going to stop sweeping homeless encampments. They're all going to come back. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. The fact that she's a national joke is why you see all these staff members in her administration jumping ship because they don't want to be affiliated with her anymore. Or alternatively, they used her to get what they want because she's a puppet like Joe Biden. They used her to get what they want. They got what they want, and then they're out of there. That's what it is. She's an empty vessel. There's nothing behind that giant forehead. It's empty, absolutely empty. And this is who's running our city. Just watch. Now, I'll tell you something else for the World Cup. A lot of you have been sending me pictures of the homeless encampments that are being pushed out to your neighborhoods. If it's safe, feel free to take those pictures and keep sending them over to me, ARIKVI.com. We're going to do a whole segment starting in June, which means starting next week. We're going to do a whole segment, the Third World Cup, telling you about all the insanity happening around here while the stadium area is clean and while the hotel area is clean. We're going to tell you what's going on in the rest of Seattle while they claim Seattle is ready for the World Cup, which we are most certainly not. I guarantee it. And if you think things are bad here, my friends, we know that her buddy Mamdani is making a mess of New York. Well, this is what happens when you put an Islamist communist in charge. We're going to tell you about his latest mess when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. This is your last chance today for these two fantabulous prizes. That's right, my friends. This week, we are giving away a pair of tickets to an advanced screening of Disclosure Day. That's Steven Spielberg's latest movie, which is going to be at AMC South Center on June 8th. The only way you can win these is head on over to KVI.com right now. Enter your information for your chance to win. While you're there, become a KVI insider, and also make sure you subscribe to all our podcasts. The other contest we're having this week is to win a pair of tickets to the Roy Rodeo, which is next weekend. Not this weekend, because me and Kevin are dum-dums and can't read right. That's mostly me, not so much Kevin. But it's next weekend, June 6th and 7th. That's when the Roy Rodeo is. It is not this weekend. So Kevin and young Zach will be out there on Saturday. I will be out there on Sunday. I think Mrs. Hoffman might actually tag along if you want to meet her, by the way. And so she loves the rodeo kind of stuff. So anyway, if you want to win tickets to the Roy Rodeo, text the word Bronco, Bronco, as in bucking bronco, as in the white Bronco that O.J. Simpson was running away in. Text the word Bronco, Bronco, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. We don't have an update about Iran. President Trump went to the Situation Room earlier today, basically to go over the terms of the deal, which is what was reported by Axios, which is basically Iran's not going to mine the Hormuz Strait. They're going to open the strait to shipping. They're not going to attack ships anymore, which is what this ceasefire was supposed to be and didn't happen. And then in addition to that, we're going to go get the nuclear dust. We're going to take care of it. That's the deal. And then we're going to negotiate nuclear disarmament of Iran. Now, for me, you can't negotiate with terrorists. The IRGC is still in charge, and they are still terrorists. They are still a death cult. You cannot negotiate with them. And your problem is, if you have more moderate government, you still have the IRGC, you're going to end up with Lebanon or Yemen, where you have a terrorist group operating inside your quote-unquote legitimate government, but they basically do whatever the terrorist organization does. So Lebanon has Hezbollah. Yemen has the Houthis. And so you're going to have that kind of problem. You have to dismantle the IRGC. Otherwise, they're going to keep funding terror. Otherwise, you're going to still have more problems. So that's what you need to do. There's no decision from Trump yet. I'm wondering if tomorrow morning I go to synagogue and the security guard says, so did you hear we bombed Iran last night? Because that's kind of how this has gone so far. It's always, I say something on my show like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. And then what happens? He always does it on Saturday. Such inconvenient timing. Doesn't he know the Jews are offline that day? Doesn't he know that? Well, speaking of the Jews, by the way, Sunday in New York is the Salute to Israel parade. It's a big parade where all the Jews come out and they have kosher hot dog vendors. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. This time of year in New York, you do not drive into the city on a Sunday because one day's the Puerto Rican Day Parade and one day's the Irish History or Heritage Festival. Every day, this time of year, every single Sunday, this time of year in New York is a different parade. So the Salute to Israel parade is when the Jews come out, right? And since the 1960s, you've always had the mayor is the grand marshal or whatever it is. Well, who's the mayor of New York now? Right. Zoran Mamdani, the terrorist supporter. So Zoran Mamdani has said very, very clearly he's not going to show up to the parade. That's his right. And here was his explanation for why he's not going to the parade.
I said on the campaign trail that I wouldn't be attending the parade, and I've made my views on the Israeli government abundantly clear. And I also said on that same campaign that I would have a responsibility as the mayor of the city to ensure the safety and security of each and every New Yorker. And I don't believe that my presence as the mayor should determine whether or not a New Yorker is safe or secure. That is something we take incredibly seriously. And what we also take seriously as an administration is to ensure that we are delivering on not just keeping Jewish New Yorkers safe, but ensuring that Jewish New Yorkers understand that they belong in this city.
Well, they don't, because you had Mahmoud Khalil at your house, and anti-Semitism is on the rise, and you never do anything about it. And in fact, you tried to stop laws that would keep synagogues safer by creating buffer zones. Let's remember that. Also, I love how he's saying it now. Oh, he's such a champagne terrorist. I heard this from a comedian. I wish I could remember who the comedian was. She said, he's a champagne terrorist. He's the kind of guy who works in the building that he flies an airplane into. That's Mamdani. So slick, so swarmy. Oh, he just doesn't like the Israeli government? Funny. Because I remember Zoran Mamdani in the streets of New York back when he was just Citizen Mamdani. This was 13 days after the October 7th massacre. This was Zoran Mamdani.
We have teenagers who are sitting with us ready for their first civil disobedience, and we have uncles.
By the way, they're waving Hamas flags. I don't mean Palestinian flags. I mean Hamas flags.
The only way we can honor the lives of those who have been taken from us.
Wait a second. After October 7th, he's talking about the lives of the terrorists who have been taken from us?
Is to resolve the context within which they all live. And that means end the occupation.
Oh, destroy Israel. Okay.
That means end the blockade and the siege.
Okay, so let the terrorists have whatever they want in Gaza. After they just killed 1,200 people and took another 240 hostage and all the rapes and awful things that they did, all the atrocities that they did. Sure, that sounds like a great idea.
That means end the apartheid system of government.
Oh, so just end the government. There's no apartheid going on. You have Muslims, you have Arabs who are in the Knesset, who are members of Congress, who are members of the Supreme Court. They have full voting rights. They can serve in the army. Do we need to do this again? This is what he was saying. He doesn't have issues with the Israeli government. He has issues with Israel. He has issues with Israel. Zoran Mamdani wants the end of Israel. And so does everybody in this crowd.
Bear witness. Do not bear witness. Take action. Take action.
Okay, just calling for everybody to be terrorists now. That is Zoran Mamdani. Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner of New York, she was talking right after Mamdani. She was asked about his decision. I really liked what she had to say.
Commissioner, do you have any concerns about the mayor not being there for security reasons?
No, it's the mayor's decision not to march, and it is my decision to march proudly.
So she's going to be the grand marshal of the parade. Boom. Give her the sunglasses. Play the Thug Life music. You're good to go. That's Jessica Tisch coming down with that. Look, every nationality, there's the Italian-American parade. There's the Irish Heritage Parade. There's the Puerto Rican parade. Everybody's got these parades for the next, I don't know how many weeks in New York. It is every Sunday in New York. There's only one Zoran Mamdani's not going to. You know what's going to be funny to me? The Islamist, Hamas-supporting mayor of New York going to the Pride Parade. That one's going to be great. Just watch that one happen. I can't wait for if Iran actually comes in for the third World Cup and they're going head-to-head with Egypt right here in our backyard for the Pride Festival weekend. And they have to fight their way through the Pride Parade to go to the World Cup. You know, we should just go out of town that weekend, Kevin. I don't even think we should be in town that weekend. Can we take Friday off that week and just not be here for that entire weekend? It's going to be an absolute zoo. It's going to be a mess that weekend.
When is that date again?
The last weekend of June, I think.
I might already be out of town, pal. I think.
Good thinking there, Kevin. Yeah, good thinking not to be here that weekend. Maybe that's a good weekend to go out to, I don't know, Leavenworth or something like that. Just be nowhere near Seattle proper. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Lars Larson will be joining us to discuss the latest with the superintendent and other teachers being arrested and put on leave in the Longview School District and the parents' reactions to all this. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. One of my favorite parts every week is when I get to talk to my buddy Lars Larson. And it seems like you and I have been covering this one story extensively, is what's going on with the Longview School District. Now, Lars, there's a school building that I helped build here in Seattle for the Jewish community, and every inch of that building, except for the bathrooms, is covered with cameras. I think that the reason they don't have cameras in the public schools is because they don't want anybody doing a public disclosure request to find out what they're actually teaching in the public schools.
I think you're right. And the other day we ran an X poll, we call them, and we were asking, should there be public cameras in every public school classroom? I'd include the hallways as well. Keep them out of the bathrooms. They don't belong there. And I've had people push back on the idea, but I like the idea. I remember after COVID began, there were some teachers saying, you can't let parents see what's going on in the classroom, because when parents saw it, they saw the politics, they saw the sexuality, they saw sometimes abusive behavior by students toward teachers. That should be caught. But they also saw behavior by teachers toward students, and both directions. So I think your idea is right. And I'll tell you something else. One of my theories is that while Oregon and Washington both said we're going to ban cell phones in public schools, and they say it's because of the distraction, I don't think so. I think the primary motivation, although they won't say it out loud, is the teachers have been getting caught doing terrible things, in some cases criminal things, against the kids. And they know that if the kids have cameras, these days everybody documents everything that they see happening that's unusual. So we've all seen videos of students attacking teachers, physically attacking teachers. We've seen teachers attacking students, and all of that should be documented. I don't think they want the cell phones in there. So I think you're exactly on target. And Longview schools, this is such an ugly situation. The rape of children by other children. These are high school age kids, but they're still children in the eyes of the law. The result is they should insist that the mandatory reporting law is used. And I want to see some school administrators and teachers prosecuted for failing to report when they suspect child abuse or when they know that child abuse is going on.
Now, Lars, I filed a public disclosure request, and I sent a request for comment to the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, because for me, how do you not even report this to them? And something smells here where I wonder if they were actually talking to the superintendent's office. The superintendent says no, but we'll find out what the actual story is here. But the craziest thing to me is, what was their motivation for covering this up? According to them, they say it was because it was a career killer. So you think that rather than reporting something to the police, you think that covering it up and investigating internally isn't a career killer? And the thing that I think from that means that the teachers union and their allies would be more mad at you for reporting other teachers, because if you actually reported it to the authorities, parents would say, thank you for reporting it to the authorities. This is what you should do. So I think they're more worried about their ranks in the teachers union.
I disagree that I absolutely a career killer, and here's why. If you have students who are committing criminals against other students, in this case, just to be polite about it, these are upperclassmen on sports teams who decided to haze younger kids on the JV team by shoving things up their backside. That's the most polite way I can put it. So it's rape with a foreign object. Well, how is it that it's a career killer if a teacher learns or hears this has been going on, or an administrator, and reports it to the police and says, hey, I wasn't involved in this. I didn't see it happening. I didn't tell the kids they could do it. They did it, and I reported it. How in the world does that impact anybody's? I think what they're worried about, there is a longstanding meme that you and I both know about. It's called the school to prison pipeline. And what these folks on the left mean, and people in education are generally on the left, is they say, if you have a kid who commits a crime and you actually have punishment for that crime, which all of us conservatives say, yeah, punish the kid for committing a crime because it might stop him from committing another crime or getting onto worse crimes. But instead, their theory is the minute the kid intersects with the criminal justice system, that somehow he gets sucked into criminality. That they say you're criminalizing what he did. Hey, Ari, I got news to those people. If you go to somebody and you shove something up their backside without their consent and you're a child, it's a crime. You don't have to criminalize that. It's already a crime. And yet, the thinking of a lot of liberals is no, the minute we identify that and say you've committed a crime and there will be consequences to the kid, which I think is healthy, you are criminalizing the kid and putting the kid on a path to bigger and better, bigger, worse crimes down the line. I think that's a ridiculous line of argument, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And my other thing here is we don't even know the color of these kids or anything else. So we don't even know if race played a factor in this, as far as I know. I haven't seen anything about that. We don't know if that played a factor in this at all. But you know that the teachers are always going to do whatever it takes to cover their own butts rather than protect the students. And this is really horrifying.
Yep.
That these kids are being bullied in school. These awful things are happening to them. And instead, the teachers are worried about it being a career killer. It shows you they're not in this to help the students in any way, shape, or form. They're in this to help themselves.
Yep, I think you're right. And think about the culture you're setting up. If, as an underclassman, you had somebody do something that disgusting to you, when you become one of the senior members of the varsity squad 2 or 3 years later, are you going to be inclined perhaps to say, well, they did it to me, and now I'm going to do it to somebody else? Some kids will not. Some kids will say, evil things were done to me. I recognize them as evil. I will not repeat that evil or amplify. But there will be kids saying, well, if it was done to me and I had to go through it, then the underclassmen, when I become a senior, are going to have to go through it. That's a sick culture. And the fact that the schools are allowing that sick culture to not just persist, but actually to get worse is really evil.
Lars, just before we let you go, do you think this sends a message to other teachers that they should be reporting stuff because it's the law, or do you think this makes them circumvent the system more?
No, I think if you actually see consequences, Karen Cloninger, who's the superintendent of schools, is now accused of tampering with witnesses, obstruction of justice, and failure to report, which is a gross misdemeanor. If you see real consequences, I think what every single superintendent, every single principal should do is have a staff meeting. Have it now before the school year ends, and then have it again at the beginning of the school year, and maybe say, I'm going to do this twice a year. We're going to have a quick meeting, maybe a meeting we're talking about other things at. And the first message is going to be, when you see this happening, you will report it. And the people in Longview, whether you're in Tacoma or Seattle or Spokane, when people didn't report it, some of them went to jail. And I'm telling you, as the principal of this school, the superintendent of this district, you will report these things. And if I find out you're not reporting them, I will seek the same kind of consequences for you that the people in Longview got. If every principal and superintendent sent that message and said, look, I think you're all people of goodwill, but if I ever catch you doing this, I will refer you to the police. I will support your prosecution. And if you end up with no career and sitting in a jail cell, so be it. What do you think?
As the kids say, the bare minimum. It's not too much to expect. The bare minimum. Follow the law. Lars Larson, you can catch a show every single weekday from 12 to 3 right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Lars, have a wonderful weekend, my friend.
And you as well, Ari. Take care.
Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines. Some good news giveaways today, as a matter of fact. Put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Before we get to our good news headlines, your last chance to win fantabulous prizes this week. So we are running 2 contests this week. The first one is you have a chance to win a pair of tickets to an advanced screening of Disclosure Day, the latest Steven Spielberg flick, and it's going to be at AMC South Center on June 8th. You get to see it before anybody else. The way to win these tickets, head on over to KVI.com, enter the information we ask for, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. Also, while you're there, sign up to become a KVI Insider. Check out the new articles we have over there. Don't forget we have the podcast, and you can stream the show. Also, we are giving away 2 tickets to the Roy Rodeo, which is not this weekend. It is next weekend. The Roy Rodeo on June 6th and June 7th. Young Zach and Mr. KVI will be out there on the 6th. I will be out there on the 7th. The way to win your tickets to the Roy Rodeo is text the word Bronco, as in bucking bronco, as in O.J. Simpson's white Bronco. Text the word Bronco, B-R-O-N-C-O, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. And just before we get to our good news headlines, a few of your texts we didn't get to so far this show. This one here from the 425. Ari, I love your show. Talk about the security Mom Donnie has at his events. I don't know if he's got it or he needs it, but I know you can do the research. So, funny you should mention this, 425. We have already done the research. Mom Donnie has a ton of security. And one of the upsides to having the mayor at these parades and at these festivals is he brings his security with them. What's one of the safest places to be? Where the president is. So, Mayor of New York, not that different. When they say they're going to have more security at this parade than they've ever had in the history of New York, I kind of wonder how that's true, given the fact that New York lost a ton of police officers. And Mom Donnie's not bringing his security, so I kind of wonder what they mean by that. This one here from Pat. Hello from Cabo, Ari. Listening to the show from Cabo, thank you. If there's any humor in businesses leaving Seattle and Washington, it's that those in the halls of power can't blame the previous GOP administration. You know, I was actually discussing this at the political event I went to last night. I said, you have Turd Ferguson literally blaming Trump for everything, but Donald Trump isn't the one who did the income tax. He's not the one who did the capital gains tax. He's not the one who did the Climate Commitment Act tax. He's not the one who did any of those. So he can keep blaming Donald Trump all the time, but it's not Donald Trump who did it. Jay says, is it wrong for me to refer to him as moron Zam dummy? Well, he's no dummy. So it would be Zoran Mom dummy, I think would be, rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. He's not a dummy. He's very, very smart. That's part of the problem here. We got a lot of texts where people think it's funny when I call her Mayor Fivehead. That one is pretty good. Everybody's kind of shaking their heads. I get all these texts. That's mean, but really funny. Nobody wants to admit that they're laughing at. You're smiling. I see you smiling.
I am smiling, but I get a little uneasy when we talk about ladies' appearance.
I know.
You
but
know,
if
we
she
could talk
wasn't
about your
making-
appearance or my appearance.
I
but,
knock on my appearance. If I wasn't calling myself chunky, you know, we
I'm
do
good with that. But like, you know, talking bad about ladies' looks, I'm not so into.
Okay, fine.
It is funny though.
See, that's what's happening. Every text is so mean, but so funny. I got a text from my brother-in-law who's like, that's funny. Mean, but really, really funny.
Someone called up and corrected you. He was like, no, it's not a 4-head, it's a 5-head. And I was like, hey, we've been saying that for weeks now, man. He goes, oh, really? No, I thought I'd give that one to you. No. We're way ahead of you.
We're way ahead of you.
I said, if he said 4-head, he didn't mean to. He meant 5-head.
I meant 5. I'm sorry. From now on, we'll just say 5-head. We'll just say that, and people will be like, where's that coming from? Man, why do these people not come on the show? I have no idea why. Well, hang on. To be fair, we didn't start calling her that till like 3 or 4 weeks ago. We've been asking her to come on the show for 6 months. I've given up hope because they don't even get back to requests that we make for comment.
Yeah.
They don't even do that. By the way, you want to know something funny? Zoran Mamdani's office gets back to my wife with comments. Zoran Mamdani's office gets back to me with comments. You know who doesn't get back to us? Katie Wilson. You know who doesn't get back to us? Bob Ferguson.
I wonder if this show is broadcast in New York to where he can hear what you call him. Then probably he wouldn't be reaching back out to you.
He gets back to Sid. And Sid does not say nice things about him. They get back to him with all that kind of stuff. So, no, it's just a matter of, are you afraid to take a little bit heat or not? That's it. Just put that one out there. That's why we are the most dangerous show on the airwaves.
Do you got some good news here or what? This thing's called good news.
Well, we were laughing about the 5-head. That was kind of funny. Okay, I got some good news for you. NASA plans to build a moon base. Quote, humanity's first outpost on another celestial world. Okay. All right. I'm not sure it's a celestial world. In Star Trek, they don't go to the moons usually. It's usually they go to the moons if they have to blow something up. It's usually they go to a certain planet. But anywho, during a Tuesday event in NASA's headquarters in Washington, D.C., the agency announced new partnerships and contracts to begin construction of the moon base, which will be America's and humanity's first outpost on another celestial world. Every mission, crewed and uncrewed, will be a learning opportunity as we return to the lunar surface, build the infrastructure to stay, and master the skills required to live and operate in one of the most demanding and dangerous environments imaginable. It will be divided into 3 separate phases, namely Moonbase 1, Moonbase 2, and Moonbase 3. Very original. Very, very original names, guys. We went from Odyssey and Aquarius and Columbia to Moonbase 1, 2, and 3. Excellent. Oh, great, guys. These missions will include using NASA's advanced technology to deliver payloads and equipment that will include a laser. Wait, I'm sorry. That's in the press release. Oh, laser retroflective array. It's a laser on the moon. Just leaving that there, which helps spacecraft determine suitable landing locations and also fries your enemies. NASA will also collaborate with the European Space Agency and the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute as the foreign space agencies provide payloads for NASA's lunar ambitions. Excellent. This is wonderful. The Space Agency also announced updates and separate mission dubbed Moonfall. Wasn't that terrible movie where the moon was falling out of orbit and they gave us those hats that said blank the moon on them?
I believe you're right.
Okay. Just all right. Just making sure we all know what happened in that one. It plans to send 4 space drones to the moon to survey landing sites for Artemis astronauts. These aircraft, they're not aircraft, they're spacecraft, will gather high-resolution images of the moon's surface over the course of a lunar day to provide much-needed intelligence for NASA. The drones will be transported to the moon in a prototype spacecraft designed in Southern California by Firefly Aerospace until Firefly Aerospace decides to move to Texas. NASA expects to launch this initiative in 2028. After the successful Artemis II mission, which sent 4 astronauts on a 10-day mission around the moon's surface, leaders at NASA plan to send others on more difficult missions to explore the moon in preparation, ultimately for the first crewed mission to Mars. I love this kind of stuff.
Do you think that will be up and running before the line, the ST3 line going to Ballard? What do you think?
I think we will
We'll be on the moon.
We will have a moon base. I think, in fact, I bet you we'll be on our way to Mars before we have the line out to Ballard.
What about West Seattle?
No, that's never happening, dude. All right, we're going to have like the Enterprise and we're going to be flying around like in Star Trek and stuff. And they're still going to be like, maybe in 25 years we'll have the West Seattle line. Maybe. Yeah, that stuff's never happening, man. It's nice that everybody lives in Dream World and thinks that's happening. It's not happening. Before we get a new line out there, we're going to get a new Lumen Field. That's what's good, because you heard the new owners are talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah, I was
it
going
might
to say,
be a new stadium.
if those Hawks are still around.
Right. If the Hawks will have a franchise on the moon before you get a rail line out to Ballard.
Will the Sonics be back before?
That's never happening. Will the Sonics come? Actually, yes, the Sonics will be back long before that happens. Guaranteed. We'll have warp drive before you get a light rail extension out to Ballard or West Seattle. We'll have beaming technology from Star Trek before you get the light rail out there, and they'll go, all right, well, I'm glad we taxed you for all that, because now we have this thing, which we're not going to use for anything. All right, switching gears. The Navy has announced the commissioning of the future USS Cleveland, which is going to be a Freedom variant combat ship. The future USS Cleveland, the Honorable Hung Ko, who is the acting Secretary of the Navy, delivered the ceremony's principal address. They also had John Husted, U.S. Senator from Ohio, Shontel Brown, U.S. Representative from Ohio, Justin Bibb, Mayor of Cleveland, and the commander of the U.S. Fleet Forces Command. This is really amazing that they're doing this ship, and I know Cleveland's not the nicest place or whatever. I love when they launch ships. I love all the pomp and circumstance. The first Cleveland they had was a cruiser, which was commissioned in 1903, that served during World War I. The second was a lead ship in her class of light cruisers, the USS Cleveland CL-55, which earned 13 battle stars for its service during World War II. The third was an Austin-class amphibious transport dock, the USS Cleveland LPD-7, which served from 1967 to 2011, providing critical support during the Vietnam War, Operation Desert Storm, and various other missions. The LCS class consists of two variants, Freedom and Independence. Oh my God, just like that Armageddon movie. You got the Freedom and the Independence, designed and built by two industry teams, Lockheed Martin, which does the Freedom variant team, and odd-numbered holes in Wisconsin. Following its commissioning, USS Cleveland will be home ported at the Naval Station in Mayport, Florida. These are mission-focused warships designed to operate in nearshore environments to counter 21st century threats. Cyber hacking, that's what it is. It is a class of small surface combatants equipped to defeat challenges, including operating independently or in high-threat scenarios as part of a networked battle force. Are there going to be people on these? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Are there people on these, or are they drop off some SEALs and then withdraw a little bit? Or they send in the robots, they send in the drones? Either way, still very, very cool. Yes, this is the fourth Cleveland that we had in the Navy. That's going to do it for us this week, my friends, but fear not. We'll be back on Monday with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.